Meanings of the Quran Volume 1. Surah 2 verse 21 to 29. By Allama Ahmed Parwez. Translated in English by Dr. Ejaz Rasool. Audiobook made by Abid Hussain. 5 Chapter 5, Ejaz, Mankind. Verses 2:21-29. In the next verse of Surah Al-Baqarah the Quran states, O mankind! Follow your Rabb, who created you and those who came before you, that you may have the chance to become righteous. 2:21. In the previous chapter 3 categories of mankind appeared before us, Mutakin, Kufr, and Munafiqeen. As has already been noted, the basic address of the Quran is to mankind. The Quran mentions different groups and categories of men in accordance with the differentiation in their character and behavior, actions and deeds, and qualities and traits, otherwise its message is very much for universal mankind. Its Allah is the Rabb of mankind. 114:1-3, the proclamation of his messenger is, Say, O mankind! I am sent unto you all, as the messenger of Allah. 7:158. And a giver of glad tidings and a warner to mankind. 34:28. His book is an evidence and perspicuous light for humanity. 4:175, and a healing for the psychological ailments of the whole of mankind, admonition, guidance, and rahmat on the bestowing of which they should celebrate. 10:57-58. The Quran has stated in clear terms that, remember, durability and sustainability are only for that deed which is beneficial for the whole of mankind. 13:17. These are those deeds which are termed as being righteous deeds and virtues. It is as a consequence of these that authority and government is achieved in this world and the springs of paradise in the life of the hereafter. The aim and objective of the Quran is to connect the whole of mankind into the relationship of universal brotherhood. It states that at the beginning of their communal life men lived in the form of one ummah, but after that they created mutual differences, and became divided into different tribes, clans, parties, and nations. 10:19. In order to remove these differences and divisions, the process of heavenly guidance and direction was commenced. The messengers were sent as givers of glad tidings and as warners. They were bestowed with codes of values and laws so that through these they could cause these divided human beings to become one ummah again. This is the reason given for the lengthy process of divine guidance and blessing. It is on this very basis that in the verse being discussed an nas is addressed, and they are told the same thing which was being repeatedly stated through various anbiya, i.e. abandon the laws and regulations created by men, which, by dividing you into factions, have turned you into enemies of each other, and follow only the divine laws. The Quran has clearly stated that the purpose of human creation can only be fulfilled if man adopts obedience and compliance to the divine laws. It is stated in Surah Ad-Dhariyat, jinns, nomads, and men are created so that they may serve me, through laws. 51:56. Men, whether they are living a communal life in towns, or the dispersed life of desert tribes like nomads, can only achieve the purpose of their creation when they adopt the sovereignty of Allah alone. 5.1 The attribute of Rububiyyat of Allah. As has been noted already, the personal name of God in the Quran is Allah, and the remainder are all his attributes which are called Al-Asma'ul Husna. These attributes of Allah have been presented with great frequency and reiteration in the verses of the Quran. This is also a miracle of the Quran that whatever attribute of Allah has been referred to at any place, it fits exactly, and explains the meaning of that verse in a very appealing style. In the verse under view it is stated, O mankind, follow your Rabb, i.e. here the attribute of Rububiyyat of Allah has been portrayed in a prominent way. This is because the subject of the verses under view is itself the universal Rububiyyat of Allah. The meaning of the term Rabb has been explained in the first verse, 1:1, of Surah Al-Fatiha. This can be noted there. Its meanings are the one who, while providing nourishment to something, takes it stage by stage from its starting point to its destination of completion, i.e. the provider of the means of nourishment to everything as per its needs. 5.2 Khalqiyat and Rizqiyat. But in this verse, after the attribute of Rububiyyat, by stating Khalaqakum, Allah's attribute of Khalqiyat has also been noted, and by stating He created you and all those people who have gone before you, it has encompassed the whole of mankind from beginning to end. This means that whatever is about to be said is not confined to the people of any particular era, it will apply from the beginning of mankind to the final generations of humanity. In other words, Allah has created them all, and it He who is responsible for providing the means of sustenance to them. Regarding the process of creation, He has stated, "Follow His laws, who created you and the generations before you." 26:184. And together with creation, He has stated about Rizqiyat. It is Allah who has created you, further, He has also provided for your sustenance. 30:40. At many other places it has also been clarified that other than Him there is no creator or sustainer. In Surah Fatir it is stated, "O mankind! Call to mind the grace of Allah unto you. Is there a creator, other than Allah, to give you sustenance from heaven or earth? There is no God but He, how then are you deluded away from the truth, this evidence-based fact?" 35:3. At another place this reality and proclamation are repeated, and it is stated, "Say, bring forth your argument, if you are telling the truth." 27:64. If you are truthful in your claim that there can be another creator, sustainer, and ilah, then present your logic and evidence to back this up. Without evidence, no claim can be acknowledged by us. This mutual connection of creation and Rizqiyat is very profound and merits great attention. It is obvious that human beings or some other creation did not request Allah that He should create them in the world. He has produced creation according to some comprehensive and all-embracing program of His. Just consider, would it not have been injustice and wrong that a creation was produced but the resources and means on which their life and nourishment was dependent was not created? Allah did not do this. He first of all created these means of sustenance and nourishment, and then following this, that creation for whom this wherewithal was required. Experts on earth and life sciences inform us that air, water, light, heat, and the potential to grow in the earth came into existence first, and living creation came into being afterwards. This is the fundamental link between creation and Rizqiyat. Furthermore, when we see in the world that a vast proportion of creation remains deprived of the means of sustenance, this is a consequence of the non-divine distribution of sustenance, which men have held back in their own hands, otherwise Allah had created these resources and means for the Rububiyyat of the whole of mankind on an equitable basis. Details of these matters have been covered under verse 2:3. Further elaboration of these will also appear in the verses being discussed and even following this, wherever there is a discussion about the economic system. This was, however, just an additional point. The real subject here is takhliq, creation. The root of khalqan is khlq. The fundamental meaning of this is to measure with a view to making something, or cutting it, to estimate it, to assess its proportion and balance, to make one thing from another thing. Hence, khalqan will mean to estimate something, to trim and refine its outline, and then to make it with style and form so that its proportion and balance remains absolutely precise. In other words, by giving ever new combinations to different elements, to keep creating new things from them. An explanation of this point will appear later. 5.3 Khalq and Amar. In Surah Al-Araf it is stated, "Is it not that Khalq and Amar belong to Him?" 754. Be aware that Khalq and Amar are both for Allah, no other is a partner with Him in these. These are what are commonly called the domain of Amar and the domain of Khalq. There was an introductory discussion about Amar at the end of the previous chapter in connection with Allah being omnipotent. The mutual connection between Amar and Qadr was explained there. The word al-amratu was used for the path in a desert that was flagged by placing small stones. From this respect its basic meanings are sign, marker, or direction. This word is also used for numerous other meanings, but here we will confine ourselves to only these meanings because the subject under our consideration is related to these. It is clear that when some manufacturer forms the intention to make something, then first of all a concept or idea about it emerges in his mind. Then he thinks and reflects about its different aspects, he envisages the possibility of its creation and constitution. And when he has ascertained all these matters theoretically, then he takes a step to make this thing in a tangible form. In the creative program of Allah, this first stage is called the domain of Amar. In this, all matters related to the thing which is going to become created are decided conceptually. You can call this the planning stage. But in the creative program this stage is so important and intrinsic that without it nothing can be brought into existence, and if this stage is established with certainty, then it is as if that thing has come into existence. For the expression of this fact, these kinds of verses appear in the Quran in various places, e.g. when he makes a decision about an Amar, then he says to this Amar, be, and then it becomes. 2:117. We can know nothing about what this Amar of Allah is and how it is carried out, our knowledge is restricted to the domain of Khalq, and cannot advance beyond this. The renowned philosopher, Pringle Pattison, states that it is a limitation of the English language that there is only one word creation in it for takhliq, even though it was necessary that there should have been separate words for these two stages of takhliq, invisible and tangible. In the Arabic language these separate words, Amar and Khalq, exist, and the Quran has used these for this very purpose. If there had been a little more vastness in this philosopher's vision, then he would have seen that the Quran has used not just two separate words for these stages, it has used three words, and the three stages in the creative program to which these words point are very important and fundamental. This third word, or stage, will appear before us later. When the stage of Amar becomes decided, then after that the stage of Khalq appears in front. This is that stage where that thing adopts a tangible form. We have seen the meaning of takhliq is the creation of a new thing by mixing different elements together in precise proportions. For a human manufacturer or artisan this stage is very easy. When he decides on the plan for something in his mind, those elements by combining which he has to make that thing are already present in front of him, e.g. when an architect has prepared a plan for a house, the materials which are necessary for the construction of this house exist in the world: bricks, stones, cement, steel, wood, etc. For this, all that remains to be done is that he keeps on constructing the house according to the plan by mixing these constituents, essential items, in specific proportions and quantities. But when Allah began his creative program, this was not the situation. He prepared a blueprint of the creation of the universe in the domain of Amar. At that time there was nothing in existence like this from which the creation of the universe could take place according to this program. Here, first of all it was necessary to bring those elements themselves into existence from whose new combinations different things of the universe become created. This is the third stage, or we could say the middle stage, in the creative program of Allah, which remained obscured from the vision of Pringle Pattison. This is the stage of bringing into existence tangible fundamental elements from nothing. 5.4 Badi and Fatir, creating from nothing. The Quran has used the words Bada'a and Fatara for this, i.e., bringing something into existence for the first time. In Surah Al-Baqarah Allah has described himself as, to him is due the primal origin of the heavens and the earth, 2:117. In Surah Yusuf it is stated, Creator of the heavens and the earth, 12:101. In Surah Al-An'am this word has appeared as an active participle where it is stated, who created elements of the heavens and the earth from nothing, 6:79. A detailed discussion about the creation of the universe will come later at its own place. Here we wish to confine ourselves to the basic points of this program. Following analysis of various things in the universe, Western scientists reached this conclusion that by delving further and further into the constitution of these things, We reach such a point where certain things appear before us that are not compounds of different constituents but are in fact unique. These unique things are called elements. Up until recently these were numbered as being 92, now a few more have also been added. It was easy to determine about compound things as to how these came into existence, however, human knowledge has not been able to determine anything about how these elements came into existence. For example, when they analyzed a drop of water, they reached this conclusion that it is a compound made up of 2 parts of hydrogen and 1 part of oxygen. This is why water is called H2O. But hydrogen and oxygen are both individual elements, no one can tell how these came into existence. 5.5 From the atom to energy. The Greek philosopher Democritus, born 470 BC, is considered to be the founding father of this analytical research into matter. His research was that matter is a compound of such tiny particles which cannot be divided further. These indivisible particles are called atoms. This doctrine continued until this era of ours, when scientists made this further discovery that every atom of matter is, in reality, a carrier of positive and negative charge. And when they progressed further, they stated that these electrical waves are nothing more than merely pure energy. If some atom of matter is split, then from this such colossal energy is obtained from which this massive planet Earth can be blown up. That which is so well known today as atomic energy or nuclear energy is the same energy. It should be made clear that neither is the Quran a book of science, nor at the present time is the scientific explanation of matter our topic. All we need to say is whether elements are in a tangible form or are in the form of energy. The real question is, how did these come into existence? The Quran has termed these as Bada'a and Fata Raie. It has stated that Allah has brought these into existence from nothing. Beyond this, it is out with the grasp of our intellect. Our minds simply cannot comprehend how something can come into existence from nothing. These things are present, and no one can deny their existence. But no one can tell how these came into existence. Even a great scientist like Einstein could only say this much. Physical science has now turned all things into movement. The universe, which appears to us to be a collection of things, is not a solid entity which is situated in space. This is not a thing at all, instead it is an action, or a structure of events. Have you observed how the direction of scientific research is turning from the domain of calc to the domain of Amar? In the meantime, this fact that how did the beginning of this universe of matter take place remains a conundrum. This is that point where Eddington is standing perplexed, looking towards the heavens, just like the farmer who plows his fields. Ernst Haeckel has written a very interesting book which is titled, Riddle of the Universe, in which he writes, "We should acknowledge that we are just as ignorant today about the truth and reality of nature as we were, 2,400 years earlier in the time of the Greek thinkers, or 200 years previously Newton and Spinoza, or 100 years previously Kant and Goethe were ignorant. We should, in fact, also accept that the deeper we attempt to delve into the depths of this atom from which this universe is formed, and of which matter and energy are properties, the more mystifying it becomes. We can obtain knowledge about its physical forms and their evolutionary stages, but what the actual reality is behind these forms, we can know nothing about that." Dr. James Arnold Crowther, professor of physics, University of Reading, states that the system of nature in its profound, fundamental simplicity is so spectacular that in the world of science, the last word on any subject will have to be left to the last man. As we have said above, the Quran is not a book of science. But along with this, it is also a fact that despite it not being a book of scientific knowledge, wherever and whenever it does point to some fact, then scientific discoveries support it. Regarding the initial elements of the material universe, it has only stated that Allah brought these into existence from nothing, but after this it has informed us how following this initial stage, the creative program of Allah gives a final form to different things after passing them through various evolutionary stages. At a few places the Quran has stated that it is He who begins the process of creation, of anything, and then takes it forward by progressing it through stages, 10:4. The aim from going through these steps is so that precise balance and proportion becomes created in it by trimming its rough edges. Who has created, and further, given order and proportion? 87:2. He creates a thing, and then gradually keeps creating balance in it. It is on this basis that Allah has called himself the initiator of creation, the evolver, the bestower of forms, or colors. 59:24. In other words, the one who initiates creation, then after passing that thing through different steps trimming its imperfections, and in this way giving it a final form. Aristotle had declared form to be the reason for distinctiveness between different things. Indeed, he used to call form as the thing. By calling Allah al-Musawwir, the Quran has made this reality clear, how by passing different things of the universe through creative stages, he brings these into a specific form. 5.6 Ahsan al-Khaliqin, the best of creators. This trimming and refining by Allah of the things of the universe is the most exquisite manifestation of beautiful proportion and balance. He has stated, He who has made everything which he has created into a balanced form, 32:7. Allah is he who has conferred the most balanced and proportionate, pristine, form to everything, and it is from this respect that he has declared himself the best of creators, 23:14, i.e., the best creator among creators. Other than the beauty of creation, there is another great point implicit in this. The fact that Allah has called himself the best of creators means that he accepts the existence of other creators too. Although the difference between them and Allah as creators will be that Allah is Ahsan al-Khaliqin, while the other creators are of a lower status. It is obvious that in our known universe only man can be a creator, i.e., making ever new things from different material resources. 5.6.1 Takhliq and Tawleed, creation and procreation. It is obvious that there is a fundamental difference between creation and procreation. Man and animals are all of them included in the process of reproduction, i.e., procreation, which is the consequence of sexual mating. If man also remains confined to reproduction alone, then he does not progress beyond the animalistic level. The potential for the ability to create is what distinguishes him from the animalistic level. In other words, the action of animals is reproduction, not creation. Man has control over both procreation and creation. And the act of Allah is not reproduction, it is only creation. This is why at many places he has refuted the false belief of Christianity that Isa, Jesus, was the Son of Allah. Among some of the very comprehensive attributes of Allah counted in Surah Al-Ikhlas in the Quran, one among these is also this. He begets not, nor is he begotten. 112:3. Neither he himself is the outcome of the act of reproduction of someone, nor does reproduction take place through him. So much so, that he himself is also not a creation, rather is the creator, and even more than that, he is Fatir, he who creates from nothing. Man can be a creator but cannot be a Fatir. 5.7 Increases in creation. This belief about Allah is also false that once he had created the universe, he sat back doing nothing. He has said that his creative action is continuing unabated. He adds to creation as per his will, 35:1. He keeps on creating ever new additions. The renowned thinker, Ernst Cassirer, writes in his book, An Essay on Man. In connection with the process of evolution, this fact is now emerging that evolution does not mean that original creation is now not occurring. Emergent evolution is, in fact, original creation, or new creation. This discovery has resulted in an important change in Darwin's theory of evolution. And George Gaylord Simpson, an expert on the science of evolution of our time, writes, There appears to be this trend that in the process of evolution in all possible aspects of life, ever new additions are taking place, additions, and then further increase in these additions. Not only does Allah keep on making ever new additions to his creative universe, he is also not ignorant and uninformed about his creation. In Surah Al-Mu'minun it is stated, "And we are never unmindful of our creation." 23:17. In this belief was contradicted, according to which it was thought that the universe is a clock which Allah wound up once, and it is now busily functioning automatically under its own energy, and having fulfilled this duty, Allah has gone to sleep contentedly. Not at all. Allah keeps making ever new additions to creation and is also fully aware of their every state and condition. In order to traverse through evolutionary stages, the things of the universe are in a new state at every moment. They are in need of the means of sustenance according to that stage which Allah continuously provides to them. In Surah Ar-Rahman it is stated, "Of Him seeks, its needs, every creature in the heavens and on earth, every day in new splendor does He shine." 55:29. The condition of different things in the highs and lows of the universe is such that, at every moment, they are in a different state, and in every state of theirs, dependent on Allah for the means of sustenance. And since Allah is not ignorant of His creation, hence He keeps meeting every need of theirs in a balanced way. 5.8 Emergence of life. So far we have talked about the creation of the universe, i.e., about this issue that how did the physical or inorganic things of the universe come into existence. We have not discussed the subject of how life emerged on the face of the earth and how man himself came into existence. As far as the beginning of life is concerned, scientific research is also baffled in this regard in the same way that it is astounded and perplexed about the beginning of the universe. Though after the initiation of life, the conclusion to which they have reached about living things is the product of the doctrine of evolution. Although this doctrine originated via the renowned scientist Darwin, after him so many other such changes have taken place in it, that you could say that the name of Darwin can only be taken as a mark of respect. After studying the pages of the manuscript of nature, and from the perusal of buried treasures of ruins, and archaeological signs, the conclusion to which the human mind has arrived at about the emergence of life and the creation of man is noted below in brief words. 1. The beginning of life on the face of the earth occurred from water. 2. By the coming together of water and clay, the first life cell came into existence. 3. These cells of life, after dividing into different species like the branches of a tree, began growing, developing and spreading in different directions. 4. After phases consisting of thousands of years, different kinds of transformations kept occurring in the forms of these life cells. 5. After passing through these phases consisting of very long durations, the process of creation reached that destination which is called Tawlid, i.e., creation through reproduction. This can be taken to mean animal life. 6. An animalistic life, after passing through similar further very long durations, stage by stage, revealed itself in the human form, and in this way the life of Homo sapiens began. Since understanding this issue of how life came into existence was beyond the human intellect, this is why the Quran has moved on after only touching upon it to this extent. We made from water every living thing. Will they not then have Iman? 21:30. In other words, life is dependent on water for its emergence. It emerged from water itself, and even now where there is no water, the emergence of life there is not possible. After this the Quran has stated that the central control of this original source of life belongs to Allah Himself. In Surah Hud it is stated, Allah's control is established over the fountainhead of life, 11:7. And on this same basis He has stated in various places, the law of life and death is in the control of Allah, 3:156. 5.9 Human creation. After this the question which arises is, how did man come into existence? A detailed discussion on this topic will be carried out at that place where the story of Adam comes before us. Here it is sufficient to say that this concept which prevails among us that Allah first of all made a figure out of clay, and by breathing ruh into it, gave it a human form, and then by splitting open his rib cage, brought out his consort from this, and in this way, from this very first couple of a man and a woman, Adam and Eve, the process of multiplication of the human race commenced. This concept is not Quranic, it has been borrowed from Judaism. The signs which are available about human creation from the Quran also turn the direction of our thinking towards the doctrine of evolution itself. The Quran has informed us that He began the creation of man with clay, i.e., inorganic matter. 32:7. When this inorganic matter became mixed with water, then this was the next link in this process of evolution. So it is proclaimed, we have created them, human beings, out of a sticky clay. 37:11. Scientific research tells us that this sticky clay is the same as that which is visible at the bottom of lakes and on the banks of ponds. The very first cell of life came into existence through the amalgamation of water and clay. This cell contains within it all the greatest lofty potentials of life, just as a tiny seed containing a mighty tree within itself is desperate to display its blossom and beauty. This is that very first cell of life which the Quran has termed as nafsi wada, single nafs. For example, it is stated in Surah Al-An'am, it is He who has produced you from a single nafs. Here is a place of sojourn and a place of departure. We detail our signs for people who reflect. 6:98. Allah is He who has advanced you from a single nafs, then different stages were established for you, so that you remain at one stage for a defined period of time, and then that stage will hand you over to the next stage. Undoubtedly, we have explained our laws of life clearly and explicitly for those who reflect and have vision. This transferring, i.e., the time taken to reach from one stage to another stage, lasted thousands upon thousands of years. Referring to these progressive stages, it is stated in another verse, He has created you by putting you through diverse stages. 71:14. And at another place, you shall surely travel from one stage to another stage. 84:19. While transforming from one state to another state, you will of a surety keep progressing forward on the highway of life, and will also keep rising higher. After passing through these early stages, that destination arrived from which the process of reproduction advanced through sexual mating. The Quran has stated, and made his progeny from a quintessence of the nature of a fluid insignificant. 32:8. And in this way, verily we created man from a drop of mingled sperm, to pass through various stages. After this, we gave him gifts of hearing and sight. We showed him the path, whether he be grateful or ungrateful, rests on his will. 76:2-3. Surely, we created man from sperm in which different latent potentials exist mixed together. Then we kept turning him through various states until he was made into a hearing, seeing being, possessing intent and freedom to choose. After this we showed him the correct path of life, and left it to his choice whether he wished to adopt it or reject it. In this way, a man possessing choice and intent came into existence. The Quran has summed up this long and vast account in a few lines in Surah Al-Sajdah when it stated, He rules all affairs from the heavens to the earth. In the end will all affairs go up to him, on a day, the space whereof will be as 1,000 years of your reckoning. 32:5. The condition of the schemes of Allah is such that they are in a latent form in the heights of Allah's knowledge. When it is intended to bring one of these schemes into action, then it is initiated from the lows of the earth, matter. From here that scheme, traversing its evolutionary stages, keeps rising towards its stage of completion. These stages are traversed in very long durations of time in which each interval, according to your calculation, consists of thousands and thousands, rather 50,000s, of years. 70:4. For example, just take the creation of man itself. He began the creation of man with clay. 32:7. Then, and made his progeny from a quintessence of the nature of an insignificant fluid. 32:8. Then by passing through these various stages, it ended up at that destination where its process of reproduction was declared to be via sperm. but he fashioned him in due proportion, 32:9. By trimming and adjusting his imperfections, he was corrected in every manner, and due proportion and balance was created in his limbs and parts, 82:7. The Quran states, "And breathed into him something of his energy. And he gave you, the faculties of, hearing and sight and feeling, and understanding. Very few among you utilize these abilities for the correct purpose." 32:9. In this way, mankind, not any one particular individual of humanity, came into existence through the evolutionary process. This is that mankind which has been told that, "O mankind, follow the laws of that Allah, who has created you and is also responsible for your nourishment. Obey His and only His laws so that you remain protected from the lethal dangers of life." 221. 5.10 Protection from lethal dangers. These dangers which destroy life are of two types. Firstly, physical incidents in the universe, earthly and heavenly. As far as these events are concerned, just bring the scene to mind that when human consciousness opened its eyes, what kind of world did it find itself in? Above his head, a great blazing sphere continuously spewing fire, i.e., the sun. Gigantic intimidating mountains. Boundless oceans near and far. And their destructive stormy waves. Here and there. Tumultuous rivers with indeterminate banks. Terrifying jungles extending as far as the eyes could see. And very dangerous beasts and reptiles within these. Sometimes the terrifying thunder of clouds. Sometimes the petrifying flash of lightning. Sometimes killer storms and tornadoes, somewhere the deadly lava of volcanic mountains, at other places the destruction of earthquakes altogether. This kind of onslaught of deadly perils all around, and surrounded amid these, the progeny of Adam, without a helper and devoid of means and resources. He began his life from this environment. But note the miracle of so that you become righteous, that despite all these hazards, the caravan of mankind kept on progressing forward unabated. 5.10.1 Yawmi Lust. At this juncture, a great reality disclosing verse of Surah Al-Araf spontaneously comes before us, that verse which has been twisted into something else through its customary prevalent meaning. In the idol-worshipping khankas, abodes of Sufis, you may have specifically heard meaningless words such as Yawmi Lust, Mast-e Lust or Kalib-ala etc. And then those myths based on these foundations which, in the words of Iqbal, have been carved out by non-Arab thinking to adorn these fictional tales. The traditional translation of that verse, 7:172, is this. When your Rab drew forth from the children of Adam from their loins, their descendants, and made them testify concerning themselves, saying, Am I not your Rab, who cherishes and sustains you? They said, Yes. We do testify. This, lest you should say on the day of judgment, of this we were never mindful. The entire meaning of this verse will be explained at its own place. Here it will suffice to say that the Quran has stated to Bani Adam, the progeny of Adam, that you tell us, that despite all these destructive elements which have been noted above, and other than these external hazards, despite even the destructions caused through human hands themselves, is this moving forward of the human race with continuity living evidence of the Rububiyyat of Allah or not? The existence of the human race is a talking picture and glaring evidence of divine Rububiyyat. Inquire about this from a scientist, he will tell you what a great reality the Quran has described in this one verse. As far as earthly and heavenly incidents are concerned, dealing with them was still easier, because the Creator of the universe had informed man that, and he has subjected to you, as from him, all that is in the heavens and on earth. Behold, in that are signs indeed for those who reflect. 45:13. These were those Malaika, forces of nature, which bowed before Adam, therefore there was no danger from them to the children of Adam. The danger was from that Iblis which resorted to rebellion and transgression against him. This is Iblis, those emotions of man which go outside of the bounds of Wahi. The consequence of these very emotions is those batil communal and social systems of man in which the view expressed in 236 comes before us, i.e., in which man himself becomes the victim of mankind, and the most destructive batil system in these is the one which is related to economics, i.e., is connected with the distribution and utilization of the means of sustenance. And it is towards this very issue that the Quran has drawn our attention in the next verse. Who has made the earth your couch and the heavens your canopy, and sent down rain from the heavens, and brought forth therewith fruits for your sustenance, then set not up rivals unto Allah when you know the truth. 222. In order to understand in what manner Allah has organized the system of the universe in order to fulfill his responsibility of rizqiyat, ponder firstly on this fact, how he has laid and spread out the earth despite it being spherical. Farshan means to lay out and spread something. In order to understand what the state is of a spherical thing on a small scale, stand on a dome, you will see that despite its great size, there is only a very small fraction which is flat and on which it is possible to sit or lie down. From the point at which its roundness begins, no one can even stand there, he slips and falls down. 5.10.2 Farshi Zamin, surface of the earth. But the state of this spherical earth is strange, not only is it round, it is also busily spinning at an electrifyingly high velocity. The Quran has elucidated this rotation of the earth by stating, "You sit on it peacefully and it also keeps revolving." 16:15. Observe its being Firishan from another angle. No matter how spread out the topmost part, its flatness, of a spherical thing may be, if you keep walking on it then such a point will arrive when its roundness will be before you, and after this roundness, that emptiness in which that thing is suspended or held. But the state of the spherical earth is such that travelers start walking from one point on it and after completing a full circle come back to that same point. They neither see any of its roundness, nor that emptiness in which this is suspended. In place of this emptiness, that horizon is continuously visible where, in common language, the earth and sky appear to be meeting. Just reflect, what an astounding form of Firishan this is. The Quran has also called this Medun, 20:53, 43:10. A soft and level bed is called al-Mayat, i.e., level and very comfortable. It is in connection with this that Allah has declared about himself. And we have spread out the spacious earth, how excellently do we provide good conveniences. 51:48. 5.10.3 The heavenly canopy. In this verse, 222, where as Samawat wal Ard is mentioned, a discussion about Sama will be carried out later. Presently, it will be sufficient to say that each one of those things that is covering us from above is called Sama. Hence, the roof of a house is called Sama'an. The fact is that above and below are, however, relative positions. From this point of view, in relation to something below it, everything which is above that thing will be called Sama'an, and Ard'an, below, in relation to something which is above it. Keeping this interpretation in view, bring this verse of the Quran to mind and be entranced. The Quran declares, "It is Allah who has created numerous heavenly bodies in such a way that each Sama has one Ard." 65:12. Sama'an also means clouds. 5.11 Protected ceiling. In verse 222, being discussed, Sama'a bina'an is stated. The meaning of bina'an is a building, i.e., whatever is constructed is called bina'an. Furthermore, it also means a roof. Since the word Firishan, floor, appears for earth, therefore, a more suitable meaning for bina'an will be ceiling. At another place the Quran has stated, "And we made the Sama, sky, a protected ceiling." 21:32. In other words, such a roof which is safe in itself and a means of protection for you too. And this point is also very remarkable. Experts in astronomy inform us that what are known as meteors or shooting stars are in reality small pieces, debris, of the solar system, which disintegrate and fall down because of the force of gravity and keep falling down like rain. At times planet Earth also comes in front of this rain. Though these are termed small pieces, they are in fact so large and fall down with such force that even if one of these falls on the Earth in that state, this planet will become devastated. What we call atmosphere, or sema, is a cover with a thickness of miles, consisting of layer upon layer of dense gases, which surrounds the whole of planet Earth. When these meteors enter this atmosphere, it grinds these stones into dust, and that which we call a shooting star is the shining dust of these. Occasionally some rock from among these misses being ground up and thus falls on the Earth, but this is extremely rare. Generally they become dust in the atmosphere. If the atmosphere did not grind this shower of rocks into ashes, then life on Earth would become impossible. In this way this atmosphere serves as a ceiling for us and we remain protected from the devastations of meteors. As is noted in verse 221, so that you become mutaki, this and many other forms are created by the system of nature itself, and numerous other forms which man himself can create by harnessing the forces of nature. 5.12 Land cannot be in personal possession. Moving forward from the external universe, let us come to the economic world of man, and then observe in it how the self-created system of men destroys it, and how obedience to the laws of Allah protects and guards it from these dangers. The Quran has declared this in a very comprehensive manner, that when rain falls from the skies, crops begin to emerge from the land. 222. The whole issue about this produce and fruits is condensed into one word when it is stated, rizqan lakum, this is means of sustenance and resources for the nourishment of the whole of mankind. The word lakum in this encapsulates the whole economic system of the Quran in such a way as if the heavens are being reflected in the pupil. First of all, addressing mankind, it was stated, your Rabb who created you, 221, and here it is stated, your rizq, the way in which he has created the whole of mankind, not one category of men, a group, a family, or a nation, the entirety of mankind. Similarly, the rizq bestowed by Allah is not for any specific group, class, or nation, it is for the whole of mankind. Ard, land, is a fundamental means of production, and about this the Quran has declared repeatedly and with emphasis that no one can have personal ownership of this, neither any individual, nor any group of individuals. First of all, he has declared at countless places that Ard and Sama, the earth and the heavens, are created by Allah alone. So when these are the creation of Allah, the question of anyone else having ownership over it does not even arise. This is why he has stated at numerous places that, know you not that to Allah belongs the dominion of the earth and the heavens, and is the cause for the completion of his defined program, 2:107, or the means to fulfill those responsibilities which he has assumed for himself. To Allah belongs all that is in the heavens and the earth. 2:284, also means this. What is this responsibility of his in order to fulfill which he has created the earth, and has kept his control over it? Regarding this he has stated in Surah Hud, and there is no creature on earth but its sustenance depends on Allah, 11:6. He has made this fact clear through cross-referencing of the verses, by presenting various aspects, that the earth is for the benefit of the whole of humanity, no one can have personal possession or monopoly over it. In Surah Ar-Rahman it is stated, and the earth he has laid out for the benefit of all creatures. 55:10. In Surah Al-Araf it is stated, and we have certainly established you upon the earth and provided for you therein means of livelihood, 7:10. In another verse, and we have provided therein means of subsistence, for you and for those for whom you are not providers. 15:20. This means such a creation whose sustenance is not the responsibility of humans. Men are only responsible for those herds and livestock which are in their control. It is for this that it is stated regarding the produce from the land, eat, therefrom, and graze your livestock too, 20:54. In connection with herds and livestock, bring to mind that incident of the people of Thamud which has been discussed in verse 2:3, in relation to Anfaq, i.e., in which it was said to those leaders of that nation, who having taken the pastures and springs into their private possession had halted the entry of the herds belonging to the poor and weak, desist from this practice based on blatant dishonesty. This is the she-camel of Allah, and this is the land of Allah. Let the camel of Allah roam free so that it can graze in Allah's land. 11:64. Who are you to prevent the creation of Allah from being able to benefit from Allah's land? You have no right to place a barrier on this. And never have the bounties of your Rabb been restricted. 17:20. Those things which are bestowed freely from Allah for the benefit of the whole of creation without any effort or payment, and without any recompense, no one has the right to place a barrier on them. They should remain continuously flowing like water. 107:7. They should remain freely available to meet the requirements of every needy one equally. 41:10. 5.13 This is shirk. From the above description it is clear that, according to the Quran, the means of rizq, i.e., the earth, are created by Allah, and only Allah is the owner. Hence, to think that someone else can also be an owner of them will be shirk. This is why in the verse under view the Quran has stated, "So do not make nid of Allah because you know no one can be his nid." 2:22. At this place in the Quran the word nid has been used for a partner and an equal of Allah. This is also a marvel of the Quran. The meaning of nid is to be a partner, a colleague, the equal of someone, but there is a condition in this that the two entities which are considered to be the equal of each other, their state should be such that each one of them should draw towards his own self equally. Indad is the plural of this word nid. Its meaning is clear, that when you accept the private ownership of men over land, firstly, you will accept them to be equals and of the same status as that of Allah, i.e. will accept them as partners, shriek. And secondly, that the endeavor of each one of them will be to extract the maximum from this fundamental source of risk and its produce towards himself, and also to deprive others of it. Just reflect that from the system of private ownership of land, whether it is the private ownership of one individual or a group of individuals, i.e. some particular tribe, family, clique, party, or the nation's private ownership, there cannot be any other outcome than that every owner among these will be in pursuit of accumulating the maximum, never mind if as a result of this the creation of Allah might die of hunger. You will see that wherever the Quran has mentioned these kinds of indad other than Allah, directly, or indirectly, their connection is with ownership of the means of sustenance and the distribution of rizq. Firstly, just take this verse being discussed, even in this, after the production of rizq, it is stated, "So do not attribute to Allah equals." 2:22. In Surah Hamim it is stated, "O Rasool, say to these people, do you do kufr of Allah? Of that Allah who created the earth in two stages. The first stage was when it was still so hot that there was no question of the creation of any life and its survival. In the second stage it was made so cool that survival of life became possible, and it also became possible for the means of sustenance to exist and grow for them. This is that Rabb who is responsible for the Rabu'iyat of the world, with whom you are doing kafir." 41:9. What is this kafir? That you are establishing indad with him, and you are giving the means of sustenance created by him into the ownership of men. In the next verse it is stated, "Allah has created this earth in such a way that through the mountains he established the system of irrigation. The potential has been kept in the soil so that it produces crops. Then through its rotations define the seasons so that according to these, in different parts of the year, different crops are produced. The aim of this whole system was so that the produce of the earth remains equally available for meeting the needs of all the needy. When this remains within the possession of Allah, then this purpose will keep getting accomplished, but if it is passed into private ownership, then this purpose will not be served." 41:10. At another place it is stated that when man becomes engulfed in trouble, then he makes supplications to Allah with great devotion and meekness. At that time he does not include anyone else in his prayers. But when he achieves some prosperity, then he forgets everything and starts to adopt indad, partners and associates, with Allah. Because of this, he goes astray himself and also misguides others. This is stated to be kufr. You will certainly gain some temporary advantage from this, but ultimately you will be ruined and destroyed. 39:8. This very fact is described in Surah Ibrahim in these words. Have you paid attention to the state of those people who displayed kufr towards the na'ima, favors, of Allah, and in this way deposited the caravan of their nation to that marketplace where there was no buyer for this produce, all their possessions and wealth were wasted? 14:28. This is termed the destruction of hell. 14:29. This kufr towards the na'ima, bounties, occurred like this. They established need of Allah, and in this way, by leaving the path leading to Him, people went astray. Tell them that this path of yours will provide you with sustenance of life for a while, but your final abode will be the destruction of hell. 14:30. In Surah Al-Baqarah this has been described in even greater detail. It is stated, "It is a fact that in the creation of the heavens and the earth, in the alternation of night and day, and those ships which float about in the oceans and are a means of sustenance for people, in the rain which Allah showers down from the clouds and through it provides new life to a dead land, in those living creatures which move around on earth, in those winds which blow in different directions throughout different seasons, and those clouds which are suspended between earth and space and remain tied in the chains of the laws of Allah, all these signs and manifestations are evidences indeed of this fact for men of understanding that all these are created by Allah and are in His ownership." 2:164. But despite this, there are such people who invent indeed of Allah, among whom every single one pulls others towards himself, so that his party becomes greater in number and more powerful. But those people who recognize Allah as Creator and Master, no one can draw them towards themselves. If they are pulled anywhere, it is towards Allah. 2:165. Why do people become lured towards these false gods? Purely because they have taken the fountainheads of sustenance into their personal ownership, and in this way there is no other option for those who are deprived and destitute than to approach them willingly, and to obey every command of theirs merely for the sake of bread. These are those various gods about whom it is stated. Remember, if there had been another deity along with Allah, then the situation would have been such that every god would have pulled its own creation towards itself, and in this way some gods among these would have overshadowed other gods. The reality is that true Allah is far above those concepts which these people form in their own minds. 23:91. This is why they are told, "Do not accept another ilah, deity, together with Allah. If you do this, then you will end up humiliated and ruined." 17:22. 5.14 Ilah of Ard, deities of the earth. The Quran has termed these ilah as deities of the earth, 21:21, and by this has pointed to such a reality that as we keep probing into this further, page after page of facts and perspectives will keep on opening up before you. It is stated, "Have they taken other deities for their earthly, economic, life about whom they think that they provide them with the means of sustenance?" 21:21. Say to them that, remember, He is ilah in the outer universe and also ilah in the life on earth, the social, communal, and economic life of men. And unlike earthly gods, this sovereignty of His is not based on injustice and tyranny, exploitation and subjugation, but is based on knowledge and wisdom. 43:84. Here it is stated that accept the one whom you acknowledge as Allah of the outer universe as being in authority and control in your own earthly life. 2. It is not known to what extent people could comprehend this supreme reality at the time of the revelation of the Quran, but in our times it has become unveiled before us in such a way that no difficulty remains now in understanding it. As we have already described earlier, our era is that of materialism or secularism. Secularism means denial of God, which is of two kinds. One is that denial of God on which the construct of the ideology of life of communism and socialism is based. In other words, right from the start they deny the very existence of God as an entity. 5.14.1 God of the universe. The other kind is that which is prevalent in those nations which call themselves theists. These are those people who, though they accept a God of the universe, reject him in their earthly life. Whenever God is mentioned to them, they will say that we accept that God has created the universe and this process is in operation and continuing to function according to his established laws of nature. Their iman in God is confined to this point. As far as their communal, social, economic, and political life is concerned, they say that religion, i.e., God, has nothing to do with this. We will run it according to our own choice and desire. This duality, i.e., a separate God for the universe, Ila al-Azma, and a separate God for human life, Ila al-Ard, has become a pattern for all of today's followers of God. You may remember that when Western nations, Europe and the US, were threatened by the onslaught of communism, they raised the slogan that, God's worshippers in the world, come and unite to oppose these rejectors of God. By worshippers of God they meant those who believed in a God of the universe, because none of them believed in a God as being Ilah of the earth, nor do they do so even now. Just observe in what crystal clear words the Quran illustrates this fact 1400 years ago. In some verses it has described this reality in brief words, and in others in more detail. In Surah Luqman it is stated, "And if you ask them, who it is that created the heavens and earth? They would surely say, Allah. Say, Hamd be to Allah. But most of them have no knowledge." 31:25. If you ask them who has created the heavens and the earth, they will say that Allah has created them. Say to them, that this is certainly correct, but you should also know and accept that Allah's hamd is not confined solely to the outer universe, it is all-encompassing. This is because to Allah belongs all things in heaven and earth, verily Allah is He, that is, free of all wants, worthy of all hamd. 31:26, see also, 39:38. This is because, whether it is the heavens or the earth, everywhere sovereignty and authority belongs to Him. And it is as a result of this that He is declared to be totally self-sustaining and deserving of hamd and appreciation. In Surah Al-Zukhruf firstly it is stated, if you were to ask them, who created the heaven and the earth? They would be sure to reply, they were created by Him, who is Aziz and Alim. 43:9. After this in 5 verses, 43:10-14, the Quran has described in greater detail all those means of sustenance which are created for the nourishment and development of mankind, and then has stated that the state of these worshippers of God who acknowledge Allah as Creator is such that, and they attribute some of His servants to being His partners, rather a part of Him. Indeed, man is avowedly ungrateful. 43:15. They declare the servants of Allah as His companions and associates, in fact, a part of Him. Just think how openly and blatantly man displays kafir. In Surah Al-Mu'minun it is stated, say, to whom belongs the earth and whatever is in it? Say, if you know. They will say, without hesitation, to Allah. Say, then will you not bear this fact in mind in all aspects of your life? 23:84-85. After this it is stated, ask them, who has central control over this splendid system of the universe? They will reply, it is only Allah who has control over this. Ask them again, then why you do not observe the laws of Allah? 23:86-87. Ask them, in whose hands lies the control of the heavens and who is responsible for their sustenance, who is the one who has central control over this superb and spectacular system of the universe? They will respond, it is only Allah who has control over these. After this the Quran states, say, in whose control and authority is everything of the universe, and who can harm him who comes within his protection, but no one in the universe can protect the one who transgresses against his laws. They will also acknowledge that all this also belongs only to Allah. Then ask them, that after acknowledging these facts, how is it that you are deluded that what I tell you is not the truth? I do not say anything except that his laws, which he has bestowed through Wahi, should also be in control in human life. 23:88-89. And then after this, it is stated. It is not that they are somehow confused in this regard. The issue is that we have sent to them that code of laws which is based on haqq and truth from start to finish. But they refute it since it affects their vested interests, and they wish to limit their godliness only to the extent that control and authority in the outer universe belongs to Allah, because in this way there is no impact on their vested interests. But they do not accept any control and authority of Allah in their communal life. Remember, this kind of acknowledgement of Allah is meaningless, therefore these people are liars when they claim that they accept Allah. 23:90. In Surah Al-Ankabut first of all this basic principle is noted. And how many are the creatures who carry not their own provision? It is Allah who feeds them and you. This is because He is all-hearing, all-knowing. 29:60. Say to them, just reflect how many living creatures are there in the universe who carry their own risk around on their backs. They all receive their means of nourishment according to the universal law of Rabu'iyat of Allah. Therefore if you also establish a similar system among yourselves, then all of you will keep receiving risk in this way. This is because Allah hears each and every one, and is aware of the needs of each and every one. After this it is stated that the state of these people is such that though they accept the authority of Allah's laws in the outer universe, they wish to keep Him out of the human world. For example, if you ask them, who has created the heavens and the earth and subjected the sun and the moon, to His law? They will certainly reply, Allah. How then are they deluded from the truth, do not follow Wahi in their own system? 29:61. The verse after the next one states, if you ask these people who it is that showers down rain from the clouds and through this gives new life to land which is dead, in reply they will say that all this is indeed done by Allah, and He does it with great finesse. Say to them that when you acknowledge that wherever there is the law of Rabu'iyat of Allah operating, wonder and admiration are evoked, then why do you not establish that same law in your society? But the problem is that having reached this stage, the emotions of their vested interests will overwhelm their ability to reason and understand, and in this way they will not make use of this ability, otherwise this is not something which is beyond their intellect and reason. 29:63. Had we wished, we could have quoted here the sayings of renowned scientists, philosophers and thinkers from Europe, from which this fact would have become apparent how they acknowledge this fact that there is a law operating everywhere in the outer universe, and these laws are neither devised by these things of the universe, nor are they established by man. These laws are formulated by that same Allah who has created these things of the universe. After noting these kinds of observations of theirs, we would have also described how adamant they are that there can be no practical role for Allah in their political, social, and economic life. They are able to legislate laws themselves for this. The only intrusion of religion that they can accept is that people should worship God in their respective ways, and hold whatever beliefs they wish, provided these do not clash with national laws. This is what is called the secular system. To our great surprise, this is not something that only European nations say or do, but this same system is prevalent among Muslim nations as well. Among them, too, politics and religion are two separate departments. Religion is connected to beliefs, worship, or at the most is related to personal laws such as nikah, marriage, talaq, divorce, etc. As with European nations, social, economic and political life operate under a democratic system in which the authority to legislate laws is held in the hands of men without any limits and restrictions. Even among them Ila al-Ard is not Allah. The meaning of Ila al-Ard in economic life was that ownership of resources of risk by anyone could not be declared legitimate. It should remain under the control of the Islamic system for this purpose so that it can generate the maximum risk, and so that this is distributed in such a way that no one's needs of life remain unmet, and no one accumulates beyond their needs. 5.14.2 Net of the era of Malukiyat. Under the system of batil these means of risk remain in the possession of men, though its forms keeps changing, the spirit remains the same everywhere. Indad, gods, other than Allah have been in existence in every era and are also present today. That which is called the era of ignorance and tyranny, there used to be only one Nid in it, who was called the king. Thus Pharaoh, the representative of dictatorship, had declared, "O my people! Is it not a fact that the land and the rivers flowing in Egypt are in my dominion? What, are you blind that you do not see this reality?" 43:51. This was an era of ignorance in which though speech may have been abrasive, it was delivered in forthright words. Now we are in a civilized era in which Indad other than Allah do not make frank speeches. Now they do not say that this is in our possession, for this they have invented a very duplicitous concept which is called the state. 5.15 The modern Nid, the state. The concept of a state is so vague that it simply does not appear in a precise form before anyone. No one can tell what a state actually is. Where does it reside? How does it legislate its orders and how does it implement these? No one knows any of this. But there is such a state which like Pharaoh keeps issuing its orders and ruthlessly eliminates those who rebel against it. When Mahmud of Ghazna invaded Somnath, he was told that the sacred image of a deity erected in the temple has many supernatural powers, it responds to the prayers of people and fulfills their requests. Mahmud was greatly surprised at this, and he went inside the temple and looked around curiously, and he saw that there was a curtain hanging behind the deity which was not immediately visible, and those voices which people thought were coming from the deity arose from behind this curtain. Despite the objections and resistance from the priests, he tore down this curtain. What he saw was that all the high priests were seated behind the curtain and in the name of this deity they did whatever they desired backstage. In modern times the status of the state is also like that of this deity. If you analyze the business of the state, this reality would become uncovered that whatever is being said and done in the name of the state are in actual fact the decisions and orders of the ruling class, which they issue in the name of the state, and compel people to obey them. The soul of Ila al-Ard remains the same, it has just adopted a different form, with this difference that at least the deity had a physical form, the idol of the state has no physical form. Instead of erecting it in some temple, it is erected in the idol house of the minds of the public through propaganda. The state is decreed to be the owner of the resources of risk, but it is actually in the hands of those few people who govern in the name of the state. The Quran declares all these men who directly or indirectly keep these in their personal possession as andadun min dunillah. 5.16 Halal and tayyib risk. After these explanations of the Quran, when verse 2:168 of Surah Al-Baqarah comes before us, we are plunged deep in thought. It is stated in this: O mankind! Eat of the risk which is produced by Allah in a halal and tayyib manner, and do not follow in the footsteps of Shaitan, for he is your avowed enemy. 2:168. Here the Quran has instructed that the risk dispersed throughout the earth should be consumed in a halal and tayyib way. Tayyib means agreeable, pleasant, and the effects of which are very good. Up until this the matter is easily understood, but the question of consuming risk in a halal manner merits attention. Allah has specifically declared the dead, flowing blood, meat of pigs, and every one of those things which is associated with non-Allah as haram, see 5:3, and other related verses. But in what is in the earth all edible things are included. What does it mean to eat them in a halal manner? Without becoming enmeshed in religious arguments about halal and haram, consider it enough to state at this juncture that the Quran has elaborated rizq-e-halal by calling it rizq-e-kareem, i.e. earning an honest crust. In Surah Anfal true mu'mineen is mentioned at 2 places, and in both places it is stated. Those are the mu'mineen, truly. For them are high positions with their Rabb, and protection, and noble provision. 8:4, see also, 8:74. Iqbal solved this difficult point by stating: O bird soaring high, death is preferable to that risk. That risk through which the flight becomes tainted. It is evident that for the acquisition of that risk in which man is dependent and reliant on another human being just like his own self. Leaving aside flight becoming tainted, the power to soar itself becomes paralyzed. When you bowed down before others, neither your body nor yourself remained yours. This is that risk which is received through the hands of Andadun Mindunillah. In contrast to this is that risk which Allah has called Rizq Allah, 2:60, or Rizqo, Rabbi Ka, 20:131, and declared it to be Khairun wa Abqa, i.e. good as well as sustainable. It is obvious that this is that risk which becomes available through the divine system, and in this no human being is either reliant on another human being, nor is under the burden of his favor. This is that very system in which the situation is such that there is no one who is begging for alms or who remains deprived, there is no slave or master, no ruler and ruled. Along with declaring the dead, blood and pig meat as being haram, the Quran has also stated that every one of those things which is associated with other than Allah becomes haram. This characteristic is found only in the divine system because risk in this is Rizq Allah, risk of Rabb, not that of any human being. This is why that risk is rizqi halal and tayyib. The beginning of the system had already taken place through the distinguished hands of Rasulullah, and it is obvious that according to this the process of removing large tracts of land from the clutches of big landlords had commenced in order to bring these under the management of the state. Some verses of the Quran are a witness to this. In Surah Arra this has been noted in an eloquent style. This question would have instinctively arisen in the heart of Rasulullah, that I do not know whether the system for the establishment of which I am making so much effort will become fully shaped in my lifetime or not. In reply, Rasulullah was told, whether we shall show you, within your lifetime, part of what we promise them or take to ourselves yourself, before it is all accomplished, your duty is to make the message reach them, it is our part to call them to account. 1340. Do not concern yourself regarding whether this will occur during your lifetime or not, it will most certainly take place, but you cannot assign any time for this. Your responsibility is to continue to keep on passing the message to people, it is our task to see when its effects become shaped and emerge in front. 5.16.1 Restriction imposed on tracts of land. After this it is stated, see they not that we gradually reduce the land, in their control, from its outlying borders. Where, Allah commands, there is none to put back his command, and he is swift in calling to account. 1341. This process has already begun. Do these people not see how those great expanses of land over which these leaders had a monopoly are shrinking to become smaller, i.e., are gradually leaving their possession? All this is taking place according to the decisions of Allah against which there can be no appeal. He happens to be very strict in taking account. Now they will never be able to impose their domination over these. This process had already commenced during the eminent lifetime of Rasulullah, and reached its completion during the era of Umar Farooq, when the lands of Iraq were placed in the possession of the state instead of in the ownership of individuals. And this is indeed what should have happened. During this era it was Allah alone who was Ilah al-Azma and also Ilah al-Ard, and none of the Andadun Mindunillah remained as entities. During that period Rizq was Rizq Allah and everyone received it without begging for it. 5.17 Obedience of Forefathers. After this let us return to this verse in which instruction has been given to consume rizq in a halal and tayyib manner, i.e. verse 2:168. This admonition has been decreed in this. And do not follow in the footsteps of Shaitan, 2:168. The meaning of the footsteps of Shaitan is made clear a verse later by stating, when it is said to them, follow what Allah has revealed, they say, nay. We shall follow the ways of our fathers. What? Even though their fathers were void of wisdom and guidance. 2:170. When they are told to obey this book which Allah has sent down, they say, no, we will continue to follow in the footsteps of our forefathers. At this the Quran has only stated this much, no matter whether the correct path of Allah was before them, their forefathers, or that they did not use their intellect and reasoning, they will keep following in their footsteps regardless. The initial addressees of Rasulullah were also the people of the book, and also those Arabs who were not claimants of being followers of any divine book. As far as the people of the book are concerned, though ideologically they claimed that they follow those books which were revealed to their Anbiya, those books were not with them in their original form. In any event, in whatever shape those books were with them, they did not obey them in their practical life but instead obeyed that shariat which was continuing to be prevalent among them from their forefathers, exactly the way in which today, despite having the Book of Allah, the Quran, with us, in practical terms we follow that path of our forefathers which is continuing to be prevalent among us. Hence, the first addressees of Rasulullah, whether they were people of the book or other people, all used to follow only their forefathers. These were those people who were told to follow the Book of Allah which was being presented before them, and in reply they would say to Rasulullah that you are telling a lie, Allah forbid, when you say that the path to which you invite us is defined by Allah. You wish us to give up the path of our forefathers and start obeying you, we are not prepared to do this. We prefer to obey our forefathers rather than follow you. Their objection was this: where is the proof that what you say is not from your own self, that this is from Allah? And from here we proceed to the next verse. The common translation of this verse is, and if you are in doubt as to what we have revealed from time to our servant, Abd, then produce a surah like thereunto, and call your witnesses or helpers, if there are any, besides Allah, if you are truthful in your claim. 223. 5.18 Abd of Allah, servant of Allah. In addition, Allah has called Rasulullah his Abd, and not only Rasulullah, Allah has called all the messengers his Abd. From this it is evident that the Abd of Allah is the highest pinnacle of the eminence and distinction of being human. For man there can be no higher status than this, and this is because the meaning of Allah's Abd is that such a human being does not remain obedient, subservient, and a subject and slave to anyone in the world. He possesses every kind of freedom. This is the natural outcome of Abd of Allah. And just think how lofty the status is for whoever attains it. The one who bows at the doorstep of Allah passes dauntlessly through the loftiest doorways of the world holding his head high. 5.18.1 What is the evidence for this? In any event, we were saying that the objection of these people was that where is the proof that whatever you are proclaiming is not the product of your own intellect but is wahi from Allah? If we examine this closely, for the claimant of Nubuwwat this was a most difficult situation. No one who was not a Nabi could see the wahi which he received from Allah in a tangible form. It used to be revealed to the heart of the Nabi, 2:97. After that he used to repeat the words of wahi through his tongue and used to present it to the people by stating that this is not the product of my own intellect, this is wahi revealed from the direction of Allah. Nor does he, the messenger, say aught of his own desire. It is wahi which is sent down to him. 53:3-4. And their question was, what evidence is there for this? This was the same question that the initial addressees of the Quran would ask, and is also asked today, when it is asked where is the evidence that the Quran is a book sent down from Allah, and not the outcome of the intellect of Muhammad of Arabia, but Rasulullah used to present this proclamation of his on the basis of intellect and vision and make efforts to have it accepted based on reason and evidence. This is why it is repeatedly emphasized in the Quran to say to these people to make use of their intellect and reasoning, to think using their knowledge and vision, and to study this book with profound awareness and reflection. As a result, this reality will become clear to them that this is not the creation of human intellect. Its fountainhead lies out with human intellect. But who expends so much hard work and effort, especially those people who have been made not only ease-loving and lazy by following the path of taqlid, the way of their forefathers, but which has also paralyzed their abilities to think and reason. They used to demand some tangible sign as proof for it. 5.19 Demand for miracles. Such a sign which is paranormal and supernatural, and which they could witness in front of them using their physical eyes. Such a sign is termed a miracle, i.e., such an incident which leaves the human intellect and reasoning dumbfounded. It simply cannot fathom how did it happen like this. Man, being used to the physical world, demands physical signs as evidence for such kinds of proclamations, and bows his head before them only. Even today, if you look around in your society, among those people who are called saintly, awliya Allah, first of all very few of them possess knowledge and understanding, and those who do have knowledge and who have also written some books, they are not accepted as being awliya Allah on the basis of their scholarly ability. Magical acts are associated with them, and it is on this very basis that they are accepted as being close to Allah. If you sit in religious cloisters, those who take care of the tombs of these elders, or other devotees, will continually narrate marvel after marvel relating to these elders, and those listening will keep nodding their heads in appreciation. If you read their biographies, there will be no record in it of their scholarliness or intellectual pursuits. Even if some is found, it will be sparse. The whole book will be filled with tales of their miracles. Their fame will be due to these same miracles, and they will earn a great name on the basis of these. This is the same status of a living pur. If any of his extraordinary tricks or magic feats become famous, then witness how people are attracted towards him. People used to expect these kinds of unusual feats from the Anbiya as well, and these were also demanded from them. 5.19.1 Refusal to do this. We will discuss miracles later under their respective topic. It is enough to say here that the addressees of Rasulullah used to demand the same thing from him, and the reply which used to be received from Allah, through the lips of Rasulullah, was that my miracle is this book alone. Apart from this no other miracle has been provided to me. This demand from the addressees and this reply from Rasulullah have been reiterated in the Quran at numerous places. A few verses are quoted here. In Sura Bani Israel it is stated, they say, we shall not believe in you, until you cause a spring to gush forth for us from the earth. 17:90. Or, until, you have a garden of date trees and vines, and cause rivers to gush forth in their midst, carrying abundant water. 17:91. Or you cause the sky to fall in pieces, as you say, will happen, against us, or you bring Allah and the angels before us, face to face. 17:92. Or you have a house adorned with gold, or you mount a ladder right into the skies. No, we shall not even believe in your mounting until you send down to us a book that we can read. 17:93. Just imagine the scene. These were the demands from their side, and it is obvious that in these demands they were all united, some who were making the demands and the rest waiting in anticipation to see whether this claimant of Nubuwwat can demonstrate this or not. This was the kind of multitude of addressees, and standing before them was this claimant of messengerhood. And you know what response was received from him, based on Wahi, this reply that, O Rasool, say to them that, firstly, this very concept of yours about Allah is false, that he will break his own laws of nature, about which his decree is that these are immutable, and will manifest such feats which go against nature. And that, too, so that you can accept about this book that it is not a product of the intellect of this Rasool, and is bestowed from Allah. 17:93. In other words, this is about that book which at every step urges that you should employ your intellect and reasoning. None of my claims is against knowledge and vision. O Rasool, firstly tell them this, that this very concept of yours about Allah is batil, and then say to them that this belief of yours is also wrong, that the messengers of Allah should be superhuman. Say, I am but a man like yourselves. 18:110. 5.20 A human being just like you. This is why neither Allah himself will manifest such incidents against nature, nor will I be able to display these from my side, as I am a human being, and no man possesses this ability and power that he can break the laws of Allah. You can imagine how their faces must have fallen after such a reply, and how they will have dispersed grumbling and muttering among themselves. And what must not have passed in Rasulullah's gentle heart. These were the instances when these kinds of reassuring messages used to be revealed by Allah for the encouragement and strengthening of the heart of the messenger. Rejected were the messengers before you, with patience and constancy they bore their rejection and their wrongs, until our aid did reach them. There is none that can alter the words, and decrees, of Allah. Already you have received some account of those messengers. 634. After this the Quran states, if their spurning is hard on your mind, yet if you were able to seek a tunnel in the ground or a ladder to the heavens and bring them a sign, what good? If it were Allah's will, He could gather them together unto true guidance, so be not you amongst those who are swayed by ignorance. 635, see also, 18:6. Despite so much opposition from these people, you remain immersed in this concern that why do these people not come to the right path? Why do you torment yourself? Whether you suffer 1,000 torments or grieve 1,000 times, they are still not among those who will come to the right path. If you could do this, that you could reach the other side by digging a tunnel through the earth, or reach the heavens by erecting a ladder, and bring back some miracle from there as a result of which their demand is fulfilled, they will still not accept Iman. Along with this, also keep this reality in mind. That is it not the case that the objective of these kinds of demands by these people is solely that everyone should start treading on one path alone. If the objective had been to make everyone follow one path by taking away human freedom to choose and decision making, then where was the difficulty in this for Allah to do this? But this is not what the desire of Allah is. He does not wish to snatch away human choice and intent. Hence, it is simply not His wish that the intellect of people should be suspended by displaying supernatural events, and that they are compelled in this way to tread on a single path. This is the real reason for this. So you, too, should not become like these people. Obviously, you will never be like them, who due to being ignorant of the truth, always say why did Allah not make all people alike so that they could all walk on one, correct, path. 5.21 The real reason for opposition. It is stated above that even if this kind of demand from these people is fulfilled, even then they are not among those who are going to accept Iman. From this there is a sign pointing to another very refined reality. These people were not rejecting this invitation of Rasulullah because this matter was not comprehended by them. The underlying reason for their rejection and opposition was that the vested interests of these people would have come to an end as a result of the system which Rasulullah wished to establish, on the basis of equality of humanity. All those prides and prejudices which the Quraysh used to consider as a mark of distinction because of their race. That respect and power which was accorded to them due to being the custodians of the Kaaba and on the basis of which they were the focus of reverence of all the Arabs. Those economic advantages which they possessed due to the capitalist system, all these would have been snatched away from them with the establishment of the system put forward by Rasulullah. This then was the real cause for their opposition. They used to demand miracles just for the sake of argument. This is why the Quran has stated that, if we had sent unto you a written message, on parchment, so that they could touch it with their hands, the kuffar would have been sure to say, this is nothing but obvious magic. 6:7. In another verse it is stated, they would only say, our eyes have been intoxicated, nay, we have been bewitched by sorcery. 15:15. It is correct that this particular group of vested interests would not have accepted Iman as a result of such supernatural events, but the general populace would most certainly have been impressed by them and become followers of the messenger. But as has been stated above, this would have been against the Mashi'at of Allah. The Mashi'at of Allah is purely this, that the right and wrong paths are placed clearly before people, and then it is left to their choice and intent that they select whichever path they wish. The Quran states, say, the truth is from your Rabb. Let him who will, accept Iman, and let him who will, reject it. 18:29. It is because of this that man becomes responsible for his decisions and acts and deserving of their consequences. Neither is that Iman which is accepted under duress, Iman, nor is that kafir, kafir. It is on the basis of this that Allah has very clearly stated, If it had been the will of your Rabb, they would all have accepted Iman, all who are on earth. Will you then compel mankind, against their will, to accept Iman? 10:99. If it was in the will of Allah that all mankind should be Momin, then this was not at all difficult for him to do. He would have created humanity like this, but this would not have been the path selected through their own decision. This would have been like the path of determinism of animals and things of nature. Therefore the individual who desires that people are made Momin by disabling their intellect and reason, this means that he desires that people should be forced to tread on this path. Allah does not wish this, and neither does he do this. This was that reply which was given in response to the demand for miracles by these people, and it was stated that, yet they say, why are not signs sent down to him from his Rabb? Say, the signs are indeed with Allah, and I am indeed a clear warner. 29:50. And after this it is stated, and is it not enough for them that we have sent down to you the book which is rehearsed to them? Verily, in it is mercy and a reminder to those who have Iman. 29:51. What, is it not enough for them, O Rasool? That Allah has sent down to them such a code of life through you, so that whichever people accept Iman in its truths, they will receive means of nourishment in the world, and they will also benefit with eminence and respect. Is this book not a sufficient miracle for them, that they keep on demanding physical miracles? 5.22 Iman of Sahaba, companions of the Messenger. Pause here for a few moments and cast your glance towards another reality. Despite the demands of the addressee nation of the Messenger, no miracle was brought into manifestation. He announced, and repeatedly announced, that my miracle is this very book of mine. You should reflect and ponder on it. By pondering on it, they would have seen all those advantages being snatched from them which they possessed at that time. Just imagine that in these circumstances, how high the status was from the aspects of both intellect and character of those people who had accepted Iman in the messengerhood of Rasulullah despite this. From the intellectual point of view, because recognizing the truth via pure intellect and reasoning in a superstitious environment such as the Arabs 1400 years ago is evidence of what a lofty level of perception. And from the aspect of character, because it was clearly evident to them that by accepting this truth, how their benefits will be snatched from them, and what great hardships they will have to face. But not caring in the slightest about this, they accepted this truth and accepted it unreservedly. Can there be any iota of doubt in the strength of the Iman of these individuals and in the sincerity of their acceptance of the truth? These were those embodiments of truth and haqq whom Allah has designated as Momini Haqq 8:4, and rewarded them by declaring, well pleased is Allah with them, as are they with him. 9:100. After this brief diversion, let us return to the main subject. We were saying that it was said to them that my miracle is this book. Is this not enough for you? 5.23 The challenge of the Quran. When this was said to them, they replied that we accept that you present this book before us, but our objection is indeed this, that when you state that this book is not drafted by me, it is instead bestowed from Allah, then we are not prepared to accept this. We can also write this kind of book ourselves. When our signs are rehearsed to them, they say, we have heard this before. If we wished, we could say, words like these are nothing but tales of the ancients. 8:31. Following this response they were told, very well, we accept this. Then this is the decisive issue, that if you can author an equivalent and similar book to this book, then this claim of ours will be false. Allah forbid, that this is not a book authored by a human being but is a book from Allah. Allah accepted their challenge and told his messenger, say, if the whole of mankind, including those living in towns and those living in the wild, were to gather together to produce the like of this Quran, they could not produce the like thereof, even if they backed up each other with help and support. 17:88. This Quran is not a collection of tales of the ancients as they allege. It contains immutable facts and eternal guidance covering all aspects of human life, which we repeatedly present in different styles and ways so that every matter becomes clarified. Who can formulate such a complete and immutable code of life? It is stated here that as you have claimed yourselves, demonstrate by producing a whole Quran like this Quran. At another place, by reducing the demand from his side, it is stated. Or they may say, he forged it, say, bring you then 10 surahs forged, like unto it, and call, to your aid, whomsoever you can, other than Allah. If you speak the truth. 11:13. Say to them that if you are true in your claim, that this is not a book of Allah, it is the pronouncement of a human being, then leaving aside a whole Quran, bring forth 10 surahs like it. And leaving Allah, ally yourselves with whoever you wish. Here a figure of 10 surahs is mentioned, and in Surah Yunus by reducing this further, it is stated. Or do they say, he forged it? Say, bring then a surah like unto it, and call, to your aid, anyone you can besides Allah, if you speak the truth. 10:38. And after this the issue was taken to its extremity by stating the following. Let them then produce a recital like unto it, if they speak the truth. 52:34. Inform them that if you are true in your claim, then leaving aside even one single surah, demonstrate this by producing just one reality, just one matter like the realities which are noted in this. How great is the self-confidence about this claim that it is impossible for any human being to produce any example or anything similar to any truth revealed in Wahi, and this was that extreme self-confidence on the basis of which, after accepting their challenge, it was stated. But if you cannot, and of a surety you cannot, then fear the fire whose fuel is men and stones, which is prepared for those who adopt kafir. 2:24. Firstly, you will not even have the courage to do this, and even if you made an effort and attempted it, you will fail totally, you will simply not be able to do this. And when this is the position, then is this matter not clear that this book is based on Wahi? This is not the product of this messenger's own thought process, but if even after this you will not accept this, then it is of no matter to us. You yourselves will fall into the hell of destructions. 5.23.1 The meaning of Surah. Before moving forward, a few points need clarification. In this there is mention of the surahs of the Quran. From the linguistic point of view, the meaning of the root, swr, is that of height and superiority, eminence and loftiness, elevated status and honor, power and splendor, force and authority. The manifestations of these meanings will appear before us at various points as we move on, and they will be elucidated at their respective places. In order to understand the meaning of the word surah, it is enough to depict that among the Arabs this word was used for that building which, together with splendor, keeps rising up to the sky, floor by floor. Every level of this building was called a surah. From this respect, the Quran, as a totality, is a structure which, while possessing extreme beauty and magnificence, keeps on gradually rising, and its every level is called a surah. From this a great fact comes before us. 5.24 The arrangement of the Quran. You may have heard people often questioning why the Quran was not arranged according to the order in which it was revealed, i.e., the verses which were revealed from time to time over a period of 23 years should have been written down in the same order, and this book should have been compiled in that way. I do not wish to become embroiled in any argument with people who say this. I would only like to state that it is a fact that Rasool gave the Quran to the Ummah in this compiled form with this order of arrangement. I am an ordinary student of the Quran and have been studying it continuously for the last almost 40 years, and this fact has become evident to me through my own understanding and insight that the existing arrangement of the Quran is also a miracle. I have found it to be an academic textbook. An academic book is set in such a way that at the beginning its fundamentals and basic precepts are explained in a summarized form. And then slowly, gradually, step by step, an explanation of these fundamentals is given in such a way that its every next chapter carries with it the essence of the previous chapter or chapters, and keeps moving forward as well as ascending, until the reader reaches its last part, when the writings of the whole book embed in his mind with a precise balanced order. This is exactly how I have observed the Quran and how I have understood it. And according to my understanding, I can say with certainty that this arrangement of it is also part of that miracle whose challenge has been put to the world. In order to explain its meanings, this supreme book of Allah is neither in need of any shan-e-nuzul nor of any other arrangement. It is self-sufficient, and keeps clarifying itself by itself. It has called itself Nur, light, and light does not require any external evidence for its claim to brightness. In any case, if it is reflected on further, then this fact that its arrangement is also from Allah will also appear glaringly before us. Allah has called it His book, and only that is called a book which is presented in a compiled form. Lack of order, scattered sentences, verses, and disconnected chapters, surahs, can never be called a book. Another point is what means do we have today through which we can say with certainty in what order the Quranic verses were sent down, i.e., which verse was revealed when. Inevitably it could be said that the source can be the ahadith, this is what is said, and the unreliable state of these ahadith is such that there is no need to say anything about that. Ahadith also state that Rasulullah never even gave the Quran in an organized form to the Ummah. It was compiled and arranged later, and this compilation and arrangement was also done in such a way that on seeing this, one can only hold one's head in one's hands. Asserting the Quran put together through these unreliable means to be better than the Quran which was given by Rasulullah himself, from the direction of Allah, to the Ummah, is a gross injustice. What can the outcome of such endeavors be other than to create doubts about the Quran? The Quran in its present form and arrangement is that book of Allah for the protection of which Allah Himself has taken the responsibility, and this is the very Quran which is a challenge to the world. After this brief discourse, let us return to that challenge which was being discussed. The Quran gave this challenge to its addressee nation. Leave aside other people, the Quraysh opposed the invitation of Rasulullah continuously and persistently right from the first day until the time that Makkah was conquered. In this opposition there were continual confrontations with them. They, the Quraysh, fought battle after battle, and war after war. The number of difficulties they had to face, and the losses they had to bear in this is obvious. Its ultimate end was that after the Maccan victory, they lost everything for the protection and preservation of which they did all this. Just reflect that if it had been possible for them to accept this challenge which the Quran had given them, to produce just one surah like this Quran, then with what ease they could have been able to terminate the message of Rasulullah. As we will explain later on, they were linguists, and they had great pride in their language. Such pride that for them no other could compare with it. Among them great linguistic contests used to be held, and their poets used to cause revolutions merely through the power of their words. It was in their language that the Quran was revealed. What difficulty was there for them in accepting this challenge? The Quran had also stated that they can partner the Bedouin tribes with them too. And apart from them, they can also include whichever other people they wished. It was openly proclaimed to them. And call your witnesses, shuhada, or helpers if there are any besides Allah. 223. The meaning of shaheed is the one who gives evidence, the one who watches, and also the one who decides. So, in other words, it was said to them that if by accepting this challenge you wish to have this decided upon in a gathering, then you can manage that meeting under your own supervision. Your own people themselves will give evidence in evaluation about what you present. Just think that if they had thought it was possible to do this, would they not have jumped at this challenge? They fought battles all their lives, sustained losses of their lives and possessions, their closest relatives, even their wives, left them and joined the opposing side, Jamaat-e-Momineen. This continued over the course of 20 years, but they did not come towards accepting this challenge because they knew they cannot be successful in this. We ask all the historians of the world to ponder on this evidence from history, and then reflect, what conclusion did those Arabs reach about this book? And finally, when they felt that this book cannot be the outcome of human intellect, then why did they not give up their opposition and confrontation and accept this book? We have already explained the reason for this. Its reason was the same as that which the Quran has described in these words with respect to the account of the people of Pharaoh. And they rejected those signs in iniquity and arrogance, though their selves were convinced thereof. 27:14. They kept on persistently opposing the message of Musa, though their hearts recognized that it was based on truth. They kept rebelling against it because their egotism, their unjustified pride, and their proclivity to tyranny was an impediment on their path. They considered it to be an extreme humiliation for themselves. And what an immense psychological reality this is which the Quran has illustrated in a few words. How many facts are there which we keep on denying merely due to false pride and arrogance, though we are convinced of these being true? The Quraysh were ahead of the people of Pharaoh in this. The state of their pride and arrogance was such that in the battlefield of Badr, when the sword was about to be brought down on the neck of Abu Jahl, he told his killer to cut his neck a bit lower down even if it causes me far more pain. He asked him, "Why did you wish this?" He replied that when, after the battle, a procession takes place with the heads of those killed stuck on the tips of spears, then I want the head of Abu Jahl to be visible higher compared to other heads. Just ponder, how could this kind of nation have accepted the truth of the message of Rasulullah just like that? They did not accept it, but for scholarly minds this event became an evidence for all times of this fact that they were simply incapable of doing this. They viewed it to be impossible. Is this event not living proof of this fact that the Quran is not the creation of the intellect of some human being, its fountainhead is beyond the realms of human intellect, it is knowledge from Allah? And then this matter is not just confined to the addressees of the time of the revelation of the Quran, this challenge is for the whole world, and is being repeated for 1400 years. During this period, even among non-Muslims, Arab and non-Arab, there have been such scholars of the Arabic language who hold a very elevated status in literature. During these 1400 years, in any era, has any nation in the world or any individual proclaimed that I accept this challenge? 5.25 Even today this challenge exists. The Quraysh of Makkah had only fought battles for 6 or 7 years. Never mind other nations and their opposition to Muslims, European Christian nations collectively fought the Crusades for nearly 300 years. To what extent they suffered losses at the hands of Muslims, had their kingdoms destroyed, bore all this, but they could not take on this challenge, even though by doing this how easy it would have been to defeat the Muslims. This fact that no one has accepted this challenge up until today, is this not living evidence that this book is not the product of human intellect? And even if we leave aside events of the past, this challenge is still present today before the world. The way in which all the non-Muslim nations of the world are fully engaged in opposition to the Muslims, and all the labors and intrigues they are resorting to for this, those endeavors and conspiracies which are disturbing the peace of their days and the sleep of their nights, can they not even understand such a small matter as this? That if by accepting this challenge success is achieved, then Islam can be ended and eliminated forever from the world. And after this there cannot remain any remnant and sign of a Muslim nation. These nations are not so unwise that they cannot even understand such a small matter. But their men of knowledge and vision know that this challenge cannot be accepted. When the British came to India, an army of their clergy came with them, and they started to engage in dialogues and debates with the Muslims at place after place. The European Christian nations were behind them, and within India itself they had the support and help of the British government. They debated with Muslims on every topic, some they won and some they lost, but none of them accepted this challenge. They never made this the topic of their debate at any place and at any time. In any case, the discussion was about this challenge which the Quran presented to the addressee nation or nations of the world. The question is whether this challenge was related to the style of expression of the Quran, or to the facts noted in it. We think that it was related to both these aspects. The Quran is both a miracle from the point of view of facts and explanations and selection and use of words, as well as a miracle from the standpoint of its style of expression. As far as facts are concerned, Wahi sent down, on every Nabi, from Allah used to be a miracle. The fundamental characteristic of Wahi was indeed that it was not a creation of human intellect, it was knowledge bestowed from the direction of Allah, in which there is no role of the effort, skill, and striving of the individual, human being, in receipt of Wahi. Therefore, from this aspect every book revealed from Allah was a miracle. This is the very reason that the Quran instructed Rasulullah to inform the people of the book, Jews, that say, then bring you a book from Allah, which is a better guide than either of them, that I may follow it. Do, if you are truthful. 28:49. The book which was given to your messenger, people of the book, is no longer with you now, this book, the Quran, is in front of you. Hence, present a better book of guidance than this one, if you are true in your claim that this is not from Allah. Therefore this challenge was also from the aspect of the Quran being a book of guidance, but if this challenge had only been confined to this, there would have been the possibility of argument and disagreement. Contrary to this, the challenge about the style of expression was such that as a result of this, the issue could have become evident from a tangible and factual point of view. 5.25.1 A book in the Arabic language. This was that aspect of this challenge about which it was repeatedly stated that this book has been revealed in the Arabic language. The word Arabic itself means that which makes something comprehensive and clear. As has been stated before, the Arabs had such pride in their language being comprehensive and clear that, excluding themselves, they used to call the rest of the world Ajmi, i.e., dumb. This is why, in view of this fundamental meaning of the word Arabic, the style of expression of the Quran is called very perspicuous. In many verses of the Quran it is stated, "We have sent it down as an Arabic Quran, in order that you may learn wisdom." 12:2. The meaning of an Arabic Quran will be that of a perspicuous book. In Surah Al-Zumar this point is clarified by stating, "It is, a Quran in Arabic, without any crookedness, therein in order that they may guard against evil." 39:28. A perspicuous Quran in which there is no complication, no ambiguity, no confusion, very clear and transparent, a book explaining its meanings with precision and in detail. See also verses 20:113, 41:3, 42:7, 43:3. In these verses, Arabic Quran can also mean a perspicuous book, and also a book in the Arabic language. At one place it is stated, "And this book confirms it in the Arabic tongue." 46:12. At another place, "In the perspicuous Arabic language." 26:195. From this it is evident that by this repeated statement of the Quran about itself that this is a book in the Arabic language, its intention is also that it places great emphasis on the incredible character of its style of expression and its technique of presentation. This issue will become clearer by an example. If some individual authors and publishes a book in the Urdu language, and then says repeatedly in it that the language of this book is Urdu, then his saying this will appear meaningless, because the language of this book will itself be evidence that it is written in Urdu. Moreover, from the statement of the Quran that this is a book in the Arabic language, and then also in that Arabic language which is very perspicuous, it becomes apparent that its aim was that same challenge which was presented before the Arabs, i.e., they were told that this is a book in your own language, so you should have no hesitation in accepting this challenge. If it had been a book in any language other than Arabic, then you would have immediately raised an objection that this is not our language, we cannot even comprehend it, hence this challenge is pointless. It is stated in the Quran itself that, had we sent this as a Quran, in a language, other than Arabic, they would have said, why are not its verses explained in detail? 41:44. At another place it is stated that these people say that there is someone else who instructs and teaches this claimant of Risalat, and he presents this by calling it Wahi. We know indeed that they say, it is a man that teaches him. The tongue of him they wickedly point to is notably foreign, while this is Arabic, pure and clear. 16:103, see also, 25:5. From these explanations, the purpose was to make it clear that the challenge of the Quran was from the aspect of language and also the style of expression. And those people, despite the fact that Arabic was their own language, remained unable to accept the challenge. Moreover, many other points have appeared in the Quran from which further light is cast on this aspect of this challenge. The first issue is that the state of ignorance of the Arabs of that era about facts and knowledge was such that before the advent of the Quran, there had been no divine book among them right from the beginning. In Surah Saba it is stated, "But we had not given them books which they could study, nor sent messengers to them before you, as warners." 34:44. 5.25.2 Before becoming a Nabi, Rasulullah was illiterate. History is a witness on this, that the Quran was the very first divine book among the Arabs. The state of their knowledge was such that in Makkah, which was the center of their civilization and culture, there were only 17 people in the whole of the population who were acquainted with reading and writing. Rasulullah was not included among these 17, evidence for which is present in the Quran itself. In Surah Al-Ankabut it is stated, "And you were not able to recite before it any scripture, nor did you transcribe one with your right hand. Otherwise the falsifiers would have had cause for doubt." 29:48. This was the issue related to reading and writing. As far as Nubuwwat and Risalat is concerned, it is stated in the Quran, "You did not know, before this, what is the book or, what is, Iman." 42:52. Not only this, but, "And you were not expecting that the book would be sent to you, but, it is, a rahmat from your Rabb." 28:86. This was the situation of that individual who presented this challenge to his people. To come, let all of you join together and show us by producing a similar example to some part of this book, and then it was not even the case that the presenter of this challenge had come from somewhere outside and those people did not know what his past was. Otherwise they may have had a suspicion that he had been tutored somewhere else and had arrived to present this claim by declaring himself to be simple and uneducated. When Rasulullah stated that prior to this I did not even know how to read and write, and I could never have imagined that I will be able to present such a book before you, together with this he also made it clear that I am not a stranger among you. A whole lifetime before this have I tarried amongst you, will you not then understand? 10:16. Both issues are covered in these proclamations of the messenger. Firstly, that you yourselves are aware that I was an illiterate person, and I had never ever imagined that I will be made a Nabi. Therefore, this is also not hidden from you that, despite being illiterate, I am presenting such a book. And secondly, the way in which I have spent my whole life among you, do you think this type of life is that of an honest, truthful individual, or of such an individual who is thinking of making a false proclamation of messengerhood? 5.25.32 Marvels. And the fascinating thing is that those people, i.e., those who had reached extremes in their opposition, were unable to say that you know how to read and write. Not one among them said even a word against the previous life of Rasulullah. Therefore, for us these were two remarkable evidences of the proclamation of messengerhood of Rasulullah: 1. Such a pure character of the messenger against which his opponents could not say a single word, and second, the Quran, whose challenge they could not accept throughout their whole lives. As far as this claim of the Quran is concerned, that even based on its words it is not possible for human intellect to present anything like it, the proof for this is very clear and evident. As has also already been stated, in this period of 1400 years great literary figures of the Arabic language and renowned men of eloquence and expression have come and gone, among whom there are Muslims as well as non-Muslims. Thousands of books authored by them exist which are viewed as being at a very high status from the point of view of expression and degree of comprehensiveness. Keep these books in front of you, and then reflect on any part of the Quran, a glaring difference will become clear between both. Even in the collections of a hadith attributed to Rasulullah, wherever some verse of the Quran appears, whether someone is aware of it or not that it is a verse from the Quran, he will sense a difference between the two purely from the linguistic aspect. We have many tafsir in Arabic which are such that in them explication and eloquence have been specifically emphasized. Even in them wherever a verse of the Quran appears, it glows among the rest of the writing like a shining diamond among a heap of stones. 5.26 The Quran cannot be translated. The aspect of the Quran being a miracle is such that, never mind authoring a similar example to it in the Arabic language, it cannot even be translated in any language of the world. This is acknowledged by us as well as others. For example, the famous historian and renowned writer of the Arabic language, Imam Ibn Qatiba, died 277 after describing the different styles of expression of the Arabs, writes in his book, Kitab al-Qur'an, that the revelation of the Quran was according to all these styles of delivery. And this is the reason that no translator can, precisely, translate the Quran into another language, in the way in which translators managed to translate the Bible into the Ethiopian or Roman language from the Syrian language. In this same way, translations were done into Arabic of the Torah and Zabur, Talmud, and the rest of the divine books, because non-Arabic, Ajami, languages do not possess as much expansiveness for the expression of abstract to physical realities as are available within the Arabic language. As an example, just see that if you wish to translate this verse of the Quran, Wa imitakafana min kamin kayanatin fam biz ilayhim Allah sawayin. 858. Until eternity you will not be able to come up with such words which can express those meanings which are implied in this verse, other than by breaking this order and sequence, and joining up the parts differently, and in this way make apparent those things which were noted in it. And say thus, that if there is peace and agreement between you and another nation, and you fear treachery and the breaking of the agreement on their part, then firstly inform them that you have ended the conditions which you had accepted for that, and along with this also declare war against them, so that both you and they become equal in knowing about the cessation of the agreement. There is another verse of the Quran similar to this. Fadarabna Allah azanihim fil kafi sinina adadan. 1811. If you wish to convert this subject into the words of another language, then by doing so, this subject will never be understood in the way in which it is understood through these words. And if you say that its translation is we kept them sleeping for a few years, even then, though you translated the subject, you were not able to translate the words. In the same vein there is a third verse of the Quran. Walazina iza zukaru bayayatai rabihim lam yakuru alaiha saman wa umayanan. 25:73. If you translate this verse according to its words, then it will become a confused matter, and if you say that those people do not treat it with ignorance, then by doing this you have interpreted the subject in different words, you did not translate it. This was the opinion of a Muslim literary author. Among others, whoever has studied the Quran closely has also reached this conclusion that the Quran cannot be translated into any other language. In our time, the renowned author Har Gib is counted as being among the most famous scholars of the Arabic language. He writes in his book titled, Modern Trends in Islam, 1945 edition, p. 4. For the Quran is essentially untranslatable, in the same way that great poetry is untranslatable. The seer can never communicate his vision in ordinary language. He can express himself in broken images, every inflection of which, every nuance and subtlety, has to be long and earnestly studied before their significance breaks upon the reader. Images, too, in which music of the sounds plays an indefinable part in attuning the mind of the hearer to receive the message. To paraphrase them in other words can only be to mutilate them, to substitute clay for finer gold, the plotting of the pedestrian intelligence for the winged flight of intuitive perception. An English translation of the Quran must employ precise and often arbitrary terms for the many-faceted and jewel-like phrases of the Arabic, and the more literal it is, the grayer and more colorless it must be. In passages of plain narrative, legislation, and the like, the loss may be less great, although not only unevenness and the incohesions of the compilation but also the fine shades, die hammer strokes, and the eloquent pauses, if they can be reproduced at all, may have disconcerting or, as Carlyle said, a crude and incondite effect. Even in so simple a sentence as verily we give life and death and unto us is the journeying, 50:43, it is impossible to present in English, or perhaps any other language, the force of the 5 times repeated we in the 6 words of the original. Inananu nui wa numitu wai le nal mazer. 50:43. We feel that after this there remains no need to say anything further in this respect. 5.27 The meaning of Anar, the fire. After this we return to the verse under discussion in which it is stated. But if you cannot, and of a surety you cannot, then fear the fire, Anar, whose fuel is men and stones, which is prepared for those who adopt kafir. 2:24. They were told that when you will fail in meeting this challenge, even then will you not accept this reality that this book is not the creation of some human intellect, it is wahi from Allah. But if you do not accept this reality it will not cause any harm to anyone else, you will fall into the fire of destruction, into that fire, whose fuel are an-nas, human beings, and al-hijra, stones, and which is the natural consequence of rejection of these truths. In this verse the first word requiring explanation is an-nar. The ordinary meaning of this is fire. But just as phrases such as the fire of rage, the fire of vengeance, the fire of enmity, the fire of jealousy, and the fire of hate are commonly used among us, the word an-nar was also used among the Arabs for these meanings. Furthermore, the Arabs used to call that fire which was burnt on the tops of hills to declare war as nar ul-harb, and the meaning of nar ul-qam was that that nation was defeated. From this the meaning of the word an-nar becomes clear. The Quran itself has used it for the meanings of destruction and ruin, and defeat and humiliation. In Surah Al-Imran the Jamaat-e-Mu'minin are told to remember that favor of Allah, when you were bitter enemies of each other, and He put mutual affection in your hearts, and in this way you became brethren. And you were on the brink of the pit of fire, and Allah saved you from falling into it. 3:103. It is obvious that the meaning of fire here is the essential consequence of mutual enmity and civil war between the people of a nation. The Quran itself has called this nar ul-harb, 5:64. In Surah An-Nur it is firstly stated that Allah will establish the Jamaat-e-Mu'minin in the land, 24:55-56, and then it is declared. Never think that those who do kufr are going to frustrate Allah's plan on earth. Their abode is the fire, and it is indeed an evil refuge. 24:57. It is evident that an-nar here means defeat and a life of humiliation. The meaning of an-nar in the Quran is generally Jahannam, hell, and the common belief among us is that hell is such a place where flames of fire blaze and the kufr will be pushed into it. There is no doubt in this that Jahannam in the life of the hereafter is the product of a life of crime and transgression, and we have iman on this. But Jannat and Jahannam are the names for those states of the heart whose process commences from this very life. Details about these matters will come later at their respective places. Here we consider it sufficient to briefly describe what Jahannam means, and what is the Quranic meaning of it. 5.28 The meaning of Jahannam. In ancient times in the south of Jerusalem there was a valley in which there was the temple of the god Moloch. Their men were burned alive in the presence of this god as a sacrificial offering. In the Hebrew language a valley is called Zi, and the individual in whose name this valley was called Hunnam. On this basis the valley in which human beings were burnt and sacrificed was called Zi Hunnam, or Jahannam. From this aspect Jahannam will mean sacrificial altar of humanity, and the meaning of the punishment of Jahannam will be a destruction which chastises humanity, whatever form it may have. The Quran explains its abstract truths through tangible metaphors and allegories. It has also explained the state of Jahannam through various metaphors and allegories, and it is these which will be called details of Jahannam as described by the Quran. Nonetheless, these should only be considered as metaphors. The nature and form of the life in the hereafter is not possible at our current level of consciousness. This much is nonetheless clear, that Jahannam is not the name for some pit in which a fire has been set ablaze. This is a term for agony of the heart. For example, it is stated in the Quran. It is the flames of the fire of the law of requital of Allah kindled to a blaze, which mounts right to the hearts. 104:6-7. Similarly, bring to mind the incident of the Zarar mosque as described in Surah At-Tawbah, which has been mentioned earlier. It is stated in this that the hypocrites kept the foundation of this mosque on the edge of destruction, the consequence of which was this structure went into hell with its founder. 9:109. And what was this hell? Their hearts became an abode for continual suspicion and shakiness, until this internal strife cut their hearts to pieces. 9:110. This is what hell is. In the verse under view it is directed, be fearful of that fire whose fuel is an-nas, men, and al-hijra, stones. The word waqud has been used for fuel. Fire is called waqidun, and waqudun are those sticks which are used to light fire. Wood which is kept as fuel is called hatabun, and these logs are called waqudun when they are kindled. Hence the meaning of waquduha and nazu wa al-hijratu will be that fire whose flames will have been produced by an-nas and al-hijra themselves. In the book, Bang-e by Iqbal, there is a poem with the title Ser-e-Falak, which depicts the truth of Jahannam in a very meaningful and visionary style. In it he has stated that when his desire to see and hear Jannat was completed, he noted a freezing abode at a distance. He asked his guide, "What is that frozen land?" He replied, "It is Jahannam." At this he uttered in amazement that we had heard that there will be blazing flames in Jahannam, and you are telling me this frozen tract is Jahannam. He replied that this is definitely Jahannam, but its flames are not of its own, the inhabitants of the world who come here bring their own fire with them. This is the meaning of waquduha and nazu wa al-hijratu. This is also stated at a few other places. For example, in verse 66:6, these same words have appeared. In Surah Al-Imran it is stated about the kuffar. They are themselves but fuel for the fire. 3:10. In Surah Anbiya it is said to those who follow batil, verily you, unbelievers, and the false gods that you follow besides Allah, are, but, fuel for hell. 21:98. In Surah Al-Jinn it is said about those who turn away from the right path. They are, but, fuel for hellfire. Hataban. 72:15. 5.28.1 An-Nas wa al-Hijra. It is stated in the verse that the fuel for this Jahannam will be An-Nas and al-Hijra, which are commonly translated as men and stones. And the meaning which is taken from stones is those idols which people worship. This meaning is fundamentally incorrect because the next words in the verse are that fire which is prepared for the kuffar. 2:24. Now it is obvious that stone, whether uncarved or carved into some figure, is neither momin nor kafir. Momin and kafir are human beings, not stones. Therefore, the fire which is prepared for the kafar, what is the purpose of throwing stones into it? The common meaning of an-nas is humanity, but when this word is used for comparison, then its meaning will be that of people generally. For example, the Quran states about the religious clerics, "Your state is such that you advise the people to do righteous deeds and forget about your own selves, though you study the book yourselves. Do you not understand this much, that the commands of the book are equally applicable to the people and the clergy?" 2:44. In another verse it is stated about these religious clerics, "Who in falsehood devour the possessions of men." 9:34. It is apparent that at these places an-nas means the people following the religious clergy. In Surah An-Nisa it is stated, "These are those who are niggardly, and enjoin niggardliness on other people." 4:37, see also, 57:24. From this it is evident that by an-nas is meant the general public, and those who are giving the commands are the leaders of the nation or those holding power. From these, and other similar verses, it is clear that an-nas means the public, i.e., those people who follow behind the national leaders, religious clergy, and rulers. Now we come to the word hijra. Its root is hjr, whose basic meaning is to stop and forbid, and from this is meant the intellect which tells man at what point he should halt. The word akalun itself also means to stop and to forbid. From this aspect a man who is very shrewd and astute is called hajarun. The Quran has called such people Hijra in 89:5, i.e. individuals possessing intelligence and insight, but only those possessing intelligence and insight who are very clever and shrewd. These are the very people who, having become religious clerics, national leaders, or rulers, become impediments on the paths leading to Allah. So from this the meaning of Waquduha and Nazuwa al-Hijratu will mean the public and their leaders. The mutual altercations in Jahannam between the public and their leaders are described in a metaphorical way in a very instructive style in the Quran. In Surah Saba it is stated, "The unbelievers say, we shall neither have iman in this scripture nor in any that came before it. Could you but see when the wrongdoers will be made to stand before their Rabb, throwing back the word of blame on one another. Those who had been despised will say to the arrogant ones, had it not been for you, we should certainly have been mu'minin. The arrogant ones will say to those who had been despised, was it we who kept you back from guidance after it reached you? Nay, rather, it was you who transgressed. Those who had been despised will say to the arrogant ones, nay, it was a plot of yours, by day and by night, behold. You, constantly, ordered us to be ungrateful to Allah and to attribute equals to Him. They will declare, their repentance when they see the penalty, we shall put yokes on the necks of the kafirun, it would only be a requital for their ill deeds. 34, 31, 33. But this excuse of theirs will not be considered acceptable and they will all be made to enter hell together. In Surah As-Safat it is stated, those entering Jahannam will accuse each other. The followers will say to their leaders that you used to bombard and assault us and in this way used to put us on the wrong path. They will reply that, what control and authority did we have over you, you yourselves never desired to tread on the right path. It is true that we were on the wrong path, but we never compelled you to follow this path. You followed us yourselves. We are all now sharing this punishment together. 37:27-33. In Surah Mu'min it is stated, behold, they will dispute with each other in the fire. The weak ones, who followed, will say to those who had been arrogant, we but followed you, can you then take, on yourselves, from us some share of the fire? Those who had been arrogant will say, we are all in this fire. Truly, Allah has judged between His servants. 40:47-48, see also, 2:166-167, 26:95-102. From these explanations it is intended to explain that what has been stated in verse 224, is that if despite these clear evidences you keep on denying these truths, then you will fall into the hell of ruin and destruction, you as well as the public following you, that destruction which is the natural consequence of treading on the wrong path. In contrast to this is that Jamaat which, after accepting these truths, remains steadfast on the program decreed by Allah. What kind of abode of successes and triumphs their life becomes, this is described in the next verse. But give glad tidings to those who accept Iman and work righteousness, that their portion is gardens, beneath which rivers flow. Every time they are fed with fruits therefrom, they say, why, this is what we were fed with before, for they are given things in similitude, and they have therein companions pure, and they abide therein forever. 225. The Quran has called the Anbiya as Nazir, warners, and Bashir, givers of glad tidings, i.e. those who warn people about the destructive consequences of their wrong path, and givers of glad tidings about the pleasant results of their righteous deeds. In verse 224, after the performance of the duty of warning, the Quran comes to communicating glad tidings. A detailed description of Iman has already been given under verse 2:3, there is no need to reiterate it. As far as Amle Saleh, a righteous deed, is concerned, Its general concept has been given in the context of the word fasad in verse 2:11, in which it is stated that fasad and righteous deeds are the opposite of each other. By this comparison the meaning of righteous deeds can be comprehended. 5.29 Amal-e Saleh, righteous deeds. The root of this is sdlh. Aslaha ilahi means asana ilahi i.e. he performed such a deed as a result of which the flaw, fault, or deficiency of another individual became eliminated. Therefore Amal-e Saleh means those deeds which produce balance and proportion. The meaning of as-salah is for circumstances to become balanced and straight in accordance with the demands of the intellect and guidance. In other words, for something to be in precisely that state in which it is meant to be, to remain in an absolutely suitable, correct, orderly and appropriate state. From the aspect of the vastness of this meaning, Amal-e Saleh will denote such tasks due to which the latent potentials of man become awakened. And in this way the ability to traverse evolutionary stages of life is created within him, and in addition, beauty and balance in society remains in place and imbalances are eradicated, whatever deeds bring prosperities with them both in this life and in the hereafter. These will, in any case, be those tasks which are in accordance with the laws of Allah. These will, in any case, be those tasks which are in accordance with the laws of Allah. You will see that Amanu and Amilu Salihati have appeared as intrinsically linked together in the Quran from beginning till end, i.e. having iman in the truth of the laws of Allah, and together with this performing those deeds which draw out potentials according to the procedure described by the Quran. It is clear from this that those deeds whose origin is not from the conviction of the heart, iman, are merely the product of habit or custom which keep being performed mechanically. Correct results cannot be attained by these because the foremost consequence of correct deeds should be to produce a transformation within man himself, his self should develop, as a result of which purity in his character and eminence in his conduct should be produced. This result can never be attained from those tasks which are performed mechanically. On the other side, that iman which never becomes the motive for Amal-e Saleh is not conviction of the heart, but is merely the name for customary expression from the tongue which remains futile in the same way that deeds without iman are futile. Furthermore, only those deeds are Amal-e Saleh which the Quran has declared to be Saleh, not those which we consider to be Amal-e Saleh according to our own criteria and opinion. It should be made clear that the Quran has described many deeds as being Amal-e Saleh but has not given any comprehensive and definitive list of these deeds. If we say about iman that it is the name for firm conviction in the truth of those lofty values which the Quran has defined for the development and growth of the human self, and Amal-e Saleh is the name given to the protection of those values, i.e. working according to them, then this will be in accordance with reality. This is what, in other words, will be called character. Hence, character cannot be created until there is conviction in the truth of the higher values of life. It is recognized through those deeds which are performed by this individual, and its tangible outcome should be that the issues of humanity are resolved and beauty and balance are created in human society. The Quran has called the outcome of these as being al-Jannat. 5.30 The meaning of Jannat. Al-Jannah is a very fundamental and comprehensive term of the Quran, the complete meaning of which cannot be expressed at any one place, because its details are spread like sparkling stars from beginning to end in the pages of the Quran. Linguistically, the meaning of this root jnn are to hide. A number of words emerge from this root and many of them are mentioned in the Quran at different places. But here we will only consider one of these words, Jannat. Jannat means a garden, particularly that garden whose land is concealed because of an abundance of trees and copious vegetation and is not visible. In the Quran the consequence of Iman and Amal-e Saleh is declared to be Jannat of this world and also Jannat in the hereafter. We have already stated that the life in the hereafter and the form and reality of its states cannot be comprehended at the existing level of our consciousness. This is why the Quran has presented them in the form of metaphors and similes. It is stated in Sura Ar-Ra'd, the parable of the garden which the righteous are promised. Beneath it flow rivers, perpetual is the enjoyment thereof and the shade therein, 1335. Similarly, these same words have appeared in Surah Muhammad, 47:15. From this it is evident that the description of Jannat of the hereafter is metaphorical and allegorical. Therefore, those meanings should not be taken from these words in which we use them in our physical world. In order to inform us that Jannat is not the name of some location, the Quran has stated, "And a garden, a bliss, the width whereof is as the width of heaven and earth," 57:21, see also, 3:133. About its springs, it is stated, "A fountain where the devotees of Allah do drink, which they will bring out from the depths of their hearts." 76:6. Regarding the Quranic metaphors, it has stated, "From these parables, those people will be able to reach the truth who make an effort to understand their meanings via knowledge." 29:43. Those people who infer from this that this implies the physical things of this world should understand that now no person knows what delights of the eye are kept hidden for them, as a reward for their deeds. 32:17. As far as the description of their metaphors and similes is concerned, it is obvious that these examples should have been such that the initial nation being addressed by the Quran could understand them. In a country like Arabia, where there were hot deserts spread all around in which one odd oasis could be found and around this spring a few trees would grow, it is obvious that for them what could be a greater luxurious, peaceful and comfortable scene than this, that there should be lush gardens in which there are clear and pure springs. Cool water from these springs flowing all around, no vestige of heat in this garden, trees laden with fruits, where there is such an abundance of honey and milk it is as if streams of them are flowing. For food the flesh of delicious game birds is available, extremely comfortable tents are erected in these gardens. For them, what could have been a more splendid means of sustenance than this? Moving forward, the trappings of comfort and luxury which those people among them who used to travel to and from the cities which were under the shadow of Persian and Roman rule used to witness, would most certainly have seemed to them to be a Jannat personified, and a melodious heaven, which was a product of their civilization and culture. In connection with the issue of Jannata life, the Quran has also mentioned those accoutrements, and has done so in a very appealing style. Exquisite carpets, couches spread around, magnificent palaces in which hang silk and linen curtains, crystal glassware, utensils of silver and gold, extremely delicious beverages, such a heart-warming environment, and together with this, compatible company, one outlook, gatherings of the people, these Arabs could only be made to understand Jannata life through these kinds of metaphors. If the concepts of life of the initial people addressed by the Quran had been something different, then metaphors and similes in accordance with those would have been used to explain the abstract realities of Jannat to them. From the streams which have been described as flowing in these gardens is meant that the effects of the balanced deeds of human life are not confined to time and space. The gardens resulting from them will always remain perennially lush and green, i.e., as long as these deeds are being carried out by men, these effects resulting from them will keep becoming established. This is why it is stated in Surah Ar-Ra'd, the parable of the garden which the righteous are promised. Beneath it flow rivers, perpetual is the enjoyment thereof and the shade therein, such is the end of the righteous, 1335. In Surah Ibrahim this reality is described in an even more appealing way. In this verse there is mention of gardens and streams flowing beneath them, and then it is stated, "See you not how Allah sets forth a parable? A goodly word like a goodly tree, whose root is firmly fixed, and its branches reach to the heavens, of its Rabb. It brings forth its fruit at all times, by the leave of its Rabb." So Allah sets forth parables for men, in order that they may reflect profoundly, to know the truth. 14:24-25. But the Quran has not mentioned only one Jannat. It states, "But for such as fear the time when they will stand before their Rabb, there will be two gardens." 55:46. In other words, one Jannat in this world, and the second Jannat in the hereafter. Then it is stated about these Jannats. In these Jannats life will not be monotonous, rather will consist of great variety. 55:48. 5.31 Jannat on earth. Like the Jannat of the hereafter, the Quran has also described the nature of Jannat on earth in great detail. It begins this from the Jannat of Adam. And as we will explain later on, the story of Adam is not the tale of some individual, but is the story of man himself, the story of mankind, which is presented in a very attractive, dramatic, and allegorical style. Nonetheless, it is related very much to this world because it is stated, "Behold, your Rabb said to the Malaika, I will create a new creation, following the previous one, on earth, who will possess free will." 2:30. It is apparent that the purpose of this is to describe this very life of man, and after this Adam is told to live in Al-Jannah. And the foremost characteristic of this Al-Jannah was this: "And eat of the bountiful things therein as, where and when, you will." 2:35. In this there were no restrictions placed on the means of sustenance. There was no question of mine and yours. The situation in it was such that one could eat to the full wherever one wished. In another verse Adam was told, "There is therein enough provision for you not to go hungry nor to go naked, nor to suffer from thirst, nor from the sun's heat." 20:118-119. Then it is stated, "There, no sense of fatigue shall touch them, nor shall they, ever, be asked to leave." 15:48, see also, 35:35. For acquisition of the means of sustenance, there will be neither any need to bear great hardships, nor will there be any anxiety or sorrow. And the most important thing being that there will be a total guarantee that no one will turn you out. Not only will the means of sustenance be available there, but communal life there will be so pure that no frivolity will they hear therein, nor any taint of ill, only the saying, "Salam on, peace." Salam on. 56:25-26, see also, 13:24, 14:23. This is because there will be no kind of reservation, resentment, or jealousy in the hearts of the members of that society, i.e., there will be no such thing which needs to be kept concealed from others. 7:43, 15:47. And the greatest thing of all that no one will be able to humiliate or dishonor anyone else. There will be full protection for respect for humanity and the dignity of mankind, so much so that the situation there will be that neither will there be external fear, nor internal grief and unhappiness. 6:48. This was that earthly Jannat which those nations in this world achieved who lived their life according to Iman and Amal-e Saleh, and which appeared in front of the world 1400 years ago during the harmonious and prosperous era of Muhammad, Rasulullah, and his companions. With regard to the conflict between Pharaoh and Bani Israel, the Quran has stated, "According to our law of requital, we turned the people of Pharaoh out of this land which had gardens and springs, which had the places of their wealth and sites of great reverence, and we made Bani Israel their owner." 26:57-59, see also, 44:25-28. He told the Jamaat-e-Momineen that if you live your life according to our laws, then and admit you to gardens beneath which rivers flow, and to beautiful mansions in gardens of eternity, that is indeed the supreme achievement. 61:12. And when this earthly Jannat was eventually bestowed on them, they exclaimed spontaneously. They will say, "Hamd be to Allah, who has truly fulfilled his promise to us, and has given us this land in heritage. We can dwell in the garden as we will. How excellent a reward for those who work righteousness." 39:74. The Quran has stated that the purpose of the agreement of Hudaybiyah, which was a precursor to the Meccan victory, was this: that he may admit the men and women who have accepted Iman to gardens beneath which rivers flow, to dwell therein for and remove the imbalances from their society, and that is, in the sight of Allah, as per his criterion, the highest achievement, for man. 48:5. 5.32 for men and women both. Two things have been mentioned here, one that this Jannat is not only for men, rather it is for both men and women, i.e. for both Mominine and Mominate. Hence, it is stated at another place. Whoever does deeds of righteousness, be they male or female, and are Momin, they will enter Jannat, and in the reward for their righteous deeds nothing will be held back. 4:124. And the second point which becomes apparent is that these promises of Allah about earthly Jannat were fulfilled close to the time of the Meccan victory, i.e. following a lifetime spread over 20 years, which was full of perilous confrontations and adversities, which has been depicted by the Quran in the following words. Or do you think that you shall enter the garden of bliss, without such trials as came to those who passed away before you? They encountered suffering and adversity, and were so shaken in spirit that even the messenger and those of Iman who were with him cried, "When will come the help of Allah?" Ah! Verily, the help of Allah is always near. 2:214, see also 3:141, 9:16, 29:2, 33:10. 5.32.1 Jannat will be achieved through collective life. Regarding earthly Jannat, we are confining ourselves to these descriptions only, and only consider one additional point worthy of mention, and that being that Jannat will only be achieved through living a collective life, not through the isolated individual life within monasteries. As a consequence, the very condition given in the Quran for this has been declared to be, "Join my devotees and, in this way, enter my Jannat." 89:29-30. Jannat is achieved through the formation of a Quranic society. 5.33 Azwaj in Jannat. Regarding life in Jannat, it has also been stated, "And there will be noble Azwaj in it." 2:25. The general belief among us is that Jannat will be provided in the life of the hereafter, and Jannati men in this will be given very beautiful wives who are termed as Ho'an. Since huge misconceptions arise as a result of this belief, and the opponents of Islam raise great objections to this, we therefore consider it important that this point becomes clarified right here. The meaning of Azwaj amongst us is taken to mean only wives, so much so that Zawja is the name given to a wife, and a husband is not even called Zawj. But according to the way in which this word is used in the Arabic language, and the Quran, its meanings are very wide. Linguistically, those two things are called Zawjun, which are complementary to one another. When two things are such that without the one the other cannot be completed, then among them one will be called the Zawj of the other, e.g. the two wheels of a car will be called the Zawj of each other, because if one wheel is missing, the other will remain ineffective. In addition, it is also necessary that both these wheels should be alike. If there is any lack of compatibility between them, the car will not be able to be drivable. From this point of view, the meanings of Azwaj are same values, same conduct, harmony in companionship. Men and women are both included in this. And since according to the criterion of the Quran, a husband and wife should be the most harmonious companions of each other in both conduct and similarity of outlook, therefore the husband is the Zawj of the wife, 58:1, and the wife is the Zawj of the husband. If we look at it from this viewpoint, then Azwaj in earthly Jannat will also mean that there will be companions of one outlook and similar values, and also husbands and wives of similar outlook and values. But since the concept of Jannat in the hereafter is not a physical one like this one, hence Azwaj in it will mean companions of one ideology, in which men and women will all be included. We cannot say whether in that life the existing biological or gender differentiation of a man of woman will stay the same, or its mode will be something different as well, because we cannot say anything about the nature and form of life there. But it is obvious that by the mere use of the word Azwaj, the mind should not divert to the sexual connotation, only the meaning of companions should be taken from this. Because we have seen that the life of Jannat is the name for a collective life, it is essential for the devotees of Allah in it to live in harmony. 89:29. They will all be the Zawj of each other in it. 5.34 The meaning of Ho'ar. In connection with Jannat there is also mention of Ho'ar, and due to its conventional meaning, the mind switches to sexual relations between man and woman in the Jannat of the hereafter. It should be made clear that if in the Jannat of the hereafter the process of sexual relations between man and woman continues, then this is also not something objectionable, but as we have repeatedly stated, details of the life of the hereafter should not be brought to mind in a physical sense. We feel it is enough to make this much clear here that the word hor is not just used for the feminine, it is also used for the masculine. This word is a plural form, and its singular forms are awerun, which is masculine, as well as haura, which is feminine. Its meanings are such people, men or women, whose whiteness of eyes is very pure and its blackness is very intense. Among the Arabs, such an eye was considered to be very beautiful. But later on this word began to be used among them for those people whose character is sterling, and whose outlook is very pure, because the meaning of the word awerun, plural hurun, is a pure intellect, i.e., not a cunning and devious intellect, instead a pure and clean intellect. At some places in the Quran, together with hurun, the word ainun has also appeared, 44:54, 52:20. The meaning of this is also of such an individual whose eyes are very beautiful, and it is used for both male and female. Hence, in the life of Jannat, the state of mutual companions, hurun ainun, whether they are just comrades or husband and wife, will be such that their intellect and reasoning will not be used to deceive one another. That intellect will be employed for good from the heart, i.e., a pure and clean intellect, not devious and deceitful. These are the meanings in this verse. And they have therein companions pure, 2:25. In other words, the life of Jannat, whether it is in this life or in the hereafter, will consist of such companions whose character will be very lofty, and intellect will be very pure. After these elucidations, we now come to that part of the verse under consideration whose meaning remains to be explained. When they will be provided with rizq, they will say this is the same which was provided before. They will be informed, nay, this is not exactly the same, but is similar, 2:25. In this, too, a profound reality is implied. The meanings of the word rizq are of those means of sustenance which are available on time, i.e., precisely according to the requirements of life. It has been explained in the discussion about verse 1:2, that the process of evolution in the universe is continual and ongoing. To summarize, it is that commencing from the foremost life cell, after traversing various evolutionary stages, life has reached the form of a human being. In this lengthy journey, though the essence of life remained the same, great differences continued to appear in its forms. In whatever state its form was in, it kept receiving means of sustenance according to its need. It was as a result of this that it remained capable of existing and of being able to move forward. From the point of view of purpose, though this rizq was the same, there used to be great differences in terms of its properties. We do not require the mind of a scientist to understand this difference. 5.35 Variation in the form of nutrition. This is our daily observation, e.g. just take the example of a human child. Its rizq is the milk of its mother. In the early stages of a child's life, since his stomach is weak, therefore in the milk of his mother there is a greater proportion of water and the proportion of constituents is quite low. As his stomach keeps becoming stronger, the water content in the mother's milk keeps reducing, and the constituents keep increasing. So much so, that after 2 to 2.5 years, the milk becomes quite dense. During this whole period, though it will be called milk, there will be a distinct difference in the milk of the first day and that of 2.5 years later. With this example in mind, look again at this verse of the Quran which has been quoted previously. Everything in the universe owes its means of sustenance to divine Rabubayat. The state of these things of the universe is not such that they remain in one state from beginning till end, their forms keep altering, and according to these circumstances, there is a continual change in the requirements of their means of sustenance. The state of the Rabubayat of Allah is such that He provides the means of nourishment to everything according to the requirement of its state at a particular time. 55:29. Now extend this fact towards the domain of the consequences of deeds. Leaving aside the form in which they will appear in the hereafter, just take a look at this world itself. Today's bounties will be of a different hue from the form and nature of the bounties of Allah which were acquired as a consequence of these deeds 1400 years ago. The essence and soul will be the same but their forms will be different. This is that very reality which the Quran has expressed in this metaphorical style, that the means of sustenance which the inhabitants of Jannat will receive will not be the same in every era, specifically this world and the hereafter, it will appear similar. The essence will not change, but its forms will keep changing according to the circumstances. Now let us move on. The meaning commonly taken of the next verse is: Allah disdains not to use the similitude of things, lowest as well as highest. Those who have Iman know that it is truth from their Rabb, but those who reject Iman say, what means Allah by this similitude? By it he causes many to stray, and many he leads into the right path, but he causes not to stray, except those who forsake the path. 2:26. We have seen that the Quran helps us to understand abstract realities, especially metaphysical, through tangible metaphors and examples, and this is the most thorough way to have them understood. An example can be quoted about any suitable thing. When the Quran has described that the reaction to these metaphors is different from the mu'minin and from the kafir, then there is a psychological reality concealed within this. In the outer world the matter may be one, but different people have a different perception of it according to the viewpoint of each individual. 5.35.1 Difference in perceptions. One individual, on viewing a vibrant rose on a blossom-laden branch, drowns himself in a state of delight and joy at its beauty, color, fragrance, and varieties. Contrary to this, another individual turns out to be a constant complainer about its thorns. This difference is due to the point of view. If we wish to expand on this topic, then a reasonably large tome can be compiled about it, but we do not consider there is any need for this. This is our daily observation that regarding the same thing, the same event, or the same person, different people not only have impressions which are different, but at times are contradictory as well. This disparity is the product of a variation in viewpoint. The Quran changes the viewpoint of man. The consequence of this change is that he sees everything in its true form, and defines its worth according to the scales set by the divine values. This is that transformation in the self produced by the Quran, referring to which Iqbal says, "Now I comprehend that the world is nothing, the world is my heart." By its transformation, the color of everything has altered. In Quranic terminology, this changing of the color of the heart is called Iman. This is an immense fundamental change which is created within the human psyche and becomes the foundation for changes in the outer world. As a result of this, the scales of the things of the universe change, their values change, their objectives change, their requirements change. This is the fact which the Quran has described in the verse under view by stating that though the example is only one, the impressions are different of the people looking at it with varying perspectives. Later on in verse 3:7 of Surah Al-Imran, we will see that this same issue is mentioned in relation to metaphors. In the Quran, different facts or subjective conditions have been made comprehensible via different examples. These examples will keep appearing before us in the verses coming later. Here, we will present a few as illustrations. 5.35.2 Examples from the Quran. 1. The intellect of those opposing the commands of the Sabbath are compared to apes, 2:65. 2. Those who do not use their intellect and reasoning, and follow the path of their forefathers, are compared to sheep and goats, 2:171. 3. The example of those who have insatiable greed is like that of a panting dog, 7:176. 4. The simile of Kalma Tayyib is as a virtuous tree, and Kalma Kabith as an evil tree, 14:24-26. 5. Fear and uncertainty, and insecurity created by shirk, is explained by giving the example of a fledgling which falls out of its nest and some eagle or vulture snatches it away, or a dry blade of grass which a gust of wind can blow in whichever direction it wishes, 22:31. 6. The example given about nations who squander the results of their hard work through their own hands is that of an old woman who toils the whole day long spinning, but who at the end of the day shreds it into pieces herself, 16:92. 7. Expectations attached to idols of batil are compared to the thread of a spider's web, 29:41. 8. The example given about idle religious clerics is like that of a donkey on which a pile of holy books is loaded, 62:5. 9. Purity of character is compared to a transparent pearl inside an oyster shell, 56:23. And 10. The heavenly torch to which the Quran has been compared, that can only be elaborated in its own place as the cause for enlightenment of the heart and vision, because it is feared that by trying to encapsulate it here, the majesty and sublimity of this allegory may become diminished, 24:35. These and numerous other metaphors like these are examples through which the Quran has explained different realities, and as has been stated earlier, descriptions of all the states in the life of the hereafter are metaphorical and allegorical. 5.36 The meaning of Fasikeen. These are the metaphors and similes about which it is stated that for many people these become the light of their path, while for others they are a reason to criticize and for fault-finding. Such people are called Fasikeen by the Quran. Among us the words fisk and fajur, fasik and fajir are commonly used, but few people know the correct meaning of these. There is a skin over the fruit of a date within which it grows and reaches fruition. This is also the state with other fruits. That skin is like the pattern of this fruit within which its potentials are fulfilled and it reaches maturity. But sometimes it also happens that the fruit exits its skin from one side. Such fruit never reaches maturity and instead rots. Arabs used to use the word fisk for this state. The Quran bestows the pattern of that system of society, or collective life, by remaining in which the potentials of the individuals of society become correctly developed. The individual or faction who exits from the pattern of this system will be declared as fasikin, their development will not be able to take place. Hence, every individual who goes out with the sphere of the divine values, and the pattern devised by it, is a fasik. In the next verse the Quran has elucidated this by stating, "Those who break Allah's covenant after it is ratified, and who sunder what Allah has ordered to be joined, and do mischief on earth, they cause loss, only, to themselves." 2:27. 5.37 Those who break covenants. In other words, Fasikeen are those who break the firm covenant made with Allah, and disintegrate into fragments that which Allah has enjoined to be united, and in this way they spread fasad, mischief, in the nation or on the earth. The main points referred to in this verse have been explained in the discussion of verse 2:11, under the topic of fasad. Furthermore, what the covenant which is struck with Allah consists of has also been described. One example is that agreement according to which a mu'min sells his life and possessions into the hand of Allah, 9:111. Further details about it have also been given at numerous other places which will be discussed at their respective places. Here it will suffice to state that when an individual accepts Iman in Allah, then he commits to this fact that he will obey every command of His. If he does not do this, then this will be contravention of the covenant. The term ahid al-shay'i means to continuously protect something, and to keep watch over it, sustained supervision. According to even this basic meaning, fulfillment of an agreement made with Allah will mean to observe His commands. When Allah comes after this word, then its meaning is that of giving a command. The meaning which we have given above also becomes evident from this, i.e., fulfillment of ahadullah in reality means obedience and observance of Allah's commands. It is obvious that this commitment will only be from those people who claim to have Iman in Allah. Only they can be the ones about whom it can be said that they had made a covenant with Allah, had made a promise which they now do not fulfill. All those people are included in this clause who claim that they have Iman, but in practical terms do not obey the commands of Allah. They will all be termed as being fasik. This is the reason that at some places He has called the Zalimin as being fasik, 259, and at other places as those people who seek ways to contravene the commands of Allah, 3:81. And in summary, but in very comprehensive words, he has declared that Momin and Fasik are the opposite of each other, 3:110, i.e. the one who does not obey the commands of Allah, the one who departs from his defined pattern, can simply never be called Momin. Details of these matters have been covered under the exposition of verse 2:2, where the difference between a Momin and traditional Muslims and those who are Muslims by name has been explained. It has been stated about these people that they are those who suffer loss, Al-Kasirun. 2:27. 5.38 Who are those in loss? The word Khusran also comprises a breadth of meanings. The meanings of Al-Kasir are someone who has lost direction, one who gets killed, or an individual who is unable to succeed, who remains in loss in commerce. In Khusran both a reduction in material things and loss of meaningful things are included, i.e. loss in wealth and possessions, and a decrease in intellect and iman, and in eminence and dignity. The word Khusran is used for both. The Quran has described this in Surah Al-Asr in very concise yet comprehensive words when it states, "By the token of time through the ages, verily man is in loss, except such as have iman and do righteous deeds, and join together in the mutual teaching of truth, and of patience and constancy." 103:1-3. The history of mankind is a witness to this fact that if man does not follow divine guidance then he remains in loss, and ultimately becomes destroyed and ruined. Only those people can save themselves from this destruction who have iman in the truth of the divine values and are acting upon the program defined by him which helps to manifest latent potentials. According to this program, such a system becomes established in which every member not only considers his own duty that he has fulfilled the task which was assigned as being his responsibility. He also tells his companions that they, too, should remain steadfast on the path of truth, and whatever difficulties appear in this, to face these with patience and perseverance. This admonishing of each other regarding haqq and perseverance become a means of mutual harmony and discipline among them, 3:200. They remain treading on this path resolutely and persistently, and in this way continue to leave the marks of their footsteps on their era for coming generations. This is that Jamaat which lives a life of success and prosperity. Apart from them, the life of other people is nothing more than woeful tales of failures and unfulfilled desires. The pages of history are a witness to this. After presenting the history of humanity as a witness on this great truth, the Quran asks, say, how can you deny this truth? How can you reject iman in Allah? Witnessing that you were without life, and He gave you life, then will He cause you to die, and will again bring you to life, and again to Him will you return. 2:28. 5.39 Hayat, life, and Maut, death. In this verse, first of all one evidence which Allah has provided for the existence of His being is that He has bestowed life on you. It is obvious from this how much significance the creating of life holds. First of all, let us examine the linguistic meanings of these two words, Maut and Hayat. The root of the word Hayat is Hyy. Linguistic scholars have engaged in many detailed discussions relating to its fundamental meaning which are not of any import to us. Opposite to this is the word Maut. As far as usage is concerned, this word also has numerous meanings. Fundamentally, 1. The words Hayat and Maut are also used for the physical meanings of life and death. 2. The Quran also calls those people as being dead who are alive physically, but whose human potentials have become defunct. In comparison to them, it declares those human beings as alive who, by using their intellect and consciousness, are treading on the path defined by Allah. 3. It also calls those nations dead which are in a state of decline. If there is any potential or ability remaining in them to achieve resurrection, then they can achieve life again by acting on the divine laws. And 4. After the physical death of man, the next life is also termed as Hayat, this is that life in the hereafter which is part of Iman. In the verse under discussion, First of all, the question of the physical life of man comes before us. In the previous pages we have observed what an insoluble puzzle this question is for scientists as to how this physical universe began. Regarding this, their confession about their inadequacy in determining it has appeared before us. 5.39.1 Flawed conception of scientists about the fountainhead of life. But even more than this, the question of how did life take birth is even more insoluble for them, and in this respect the greatest scientist and philosopher of modern times is holding his head in his hands, lost in thought, just like those men of intellect and wisdom were perplexed 2,500 years ago. If we had wished, we could have quoted here scores of confessions of Western thinkers and philosophers in this connection. But there is no need to go into this detail. For the purpose of comprehension, one or two excerpts will suffice. In the field of biology, the name of J.S. Haldane is held to be among the renowned scholars. In his book, The Philosophical Basis of Biology, he writes, "Now there is no hesitation in accepting this fact that life is not merely a creation from physical and chemical states. It existed before these physical states and was always present. Furthermore, there is no difficulty in accepting this fact that behind this physical universe there is another world in the light of the interpretations of which we should practically coincide our principles of biology. Hence, considering the problem of life as a physical and chemical problem is in itself wrong. Life and the existence of the human self is proof of this reality that mere physical interpretation of our universe is impossible, and this interpretation remains impossible no matter how far back we go in time and how high from the point of view of space. By taking life backwards its physical origin will never be able to be found, nor by taking the human self backward in time will we reach such a point where we can say that the human self became created from matter like this. The beginning of the theory of evolution is attributed to Darwin, but after this great changes have taken place in his doctrine. Among one of the scientists who have made these changes is G. Simpson, who holds a prominent status. He writes about the first link in the beginning of life and the process of cause and effect. How life began, with all honesty the answer to this is that we have no knowledge of this. Effort is being made to resolve this puzzle and is gradually nearing this. But the final point in this puzzle, i.e., the point of the beginning of life, is that place which lies outside of the realm of scientific discoveries and perhaps even out with the sphere of human intellectual reach as well. The very first link in the beginning of the universe and the process of cause and effect is an insoluble problem, and science cannot reach to this. This foremost link is a mystery. And in my opinion the human mind will never be able to unearth the secret. If we wish, according to our own ways, we can bow our head before this very first cause, but we can never bring it into the sphere of our cognition. Since this issue is beyond the limit of human cognition, therefore the Quran also does not go into any detail about it. It does not speak about how life came into existence. It begins its proclamation by stating how life manifested itself. In this connection there has been a discussion under verses 1:2, 2:6, 2:21. You can cast another glance at them. 5.39.2 An example of manifestation of life. In connection with the manifestation of life, we too cannot say much more than to try and explain it by an example. The sound which is broadcasted from a station spreads out in the atmosphere, but we do not have any sensation of its presence. We are aware of it at that time when that sound reaches our ears tangibly through our radio set. Before entering our awareness, hearing, this sound was not absent, it was present. But we were not able to be aware of its presence. After this, if our radio set becomes faulty, then we think that sound has ceased, or vanished, although it has not ceased or vanished. It does not reach our ears due to the fault in the radio set. Later on, if our radio set is repaired or we receive a new set, then the existence of this sound enters our awareness again. It is possible that Allah has created life before it enters the physical form, the first life cell. But since it had not entered the awareness of our senses at that time, therefore He has termed this state of ours as death, mode. The only further indication given about this state is that you were not a thing worth mentioning, 76:1. The word zikr noted in this verse will be explained at its own place. When its manifestation occurred in a concrete form, then it was called hayat because it entered the grasp of our awareness. When it again left the grasp of our awareness, it was termed as death. After this, when it will again be manifested, this will be termed as hayat after death, life after death. We cannot say how we will sense its manifestation at that time because at that time our radio set will be different from the existing set. This is the metaphorical explanation of life being hidden and being manifested. In the verse under view, the Quran has mentioned death before the existing life, then death after it, and then the life of the hereafter. At another place it has called this 2 deaths and 2 lives, 40:11. And about life after death it has stated that following this no death will become imposed, 37:59, 44:56. According to the Quran, true importance is only given to the question of life after death because its connection is with the law of requital, which is the reality and basis of deen. The existing life of man becomes the issue of physics. The relationship of kufr and iman is with life after death. It is based on this that Iqbal has said, "What can I ask of the wise ones, as to what is my beginning? That I remain in this concern, as to what is my ultimate end." 5.40 Life after death. Indeed, our concern also should only be about this because, as stated above, this is connected to kufr and iman and with the basis of deen. And whichever individual is not convinced of life after death, he thinks, in his own mind, that in this life I can do whatever comes to mind, if I make such arrangements that my crimes cannot be witnessed by anyone, and even if they are witnessed I do not have to suffer any punishment for them, then no one can touch me. Following this there is death, and with death human life ends. To whatever extent a man commits injustice and excesses, its fundamental reason is the same false assumption, i.e., denial of life in the hereafter. And if today deceit and immorality are becoming so widespread, then the cause for this is also denial of life in the hereafter, or of the law of requital, as though it has acquired the form of some doctrine. This is why the Quran emphasizes iman in the life of the hereafter, because as a result of this human society remains in a balanced state, and the selves of the individuals are also enabled so that these can traverse further evolutionary stages of life in a balanced and beautiful way. This is why the Quran has stated, "He who created death and life, that he may provide you with an opportunity to test your own deeds, and he is the exalted in might, all-protecting." 67:2. At another place, "It is he who begins the process of creation, and repeats it, that he may reward with justice those who have iman and work righteousness, but those who reject him will have draughts of boiling fluids, and a penalty grievous, because they did reject him." 10:4. This means that Allah is the one who initiates creation and then passes it through various processes so that the outcome of iman and amal-e saleh, righteous deeds, becomes precisely manifested according to the law of requital, and the crimes of those who reject haqq and truth do not remain unaccounted for. In other words, the aim of the creation of death and life is that the present abode becomes an arena of deeds, and for those deeds whose results cannot materialize in this life to manifest them in the life of the hereafter. Regarding life in the hereafter, a discussion has already taken place in the tafsir of verse 2:4. Further explanations about it will be covered under the topics of Qiyamat, Hashr, Nashr, accountability, Jannat, Jahannam, etc., as those are the most suitable places for this. At this point, it is necessary to additionally make it clear that the Quran does not place so much emphasis on the life of the hereafter so that people become fearful of the punishment in the hereafter, and start doing good deeds, not at all. Life after death is a fact, and the Quran describes it as a fact, like other facts. The aim from this is to tell man that his present life is not the last link of life. Life still has to traverse further evolutionary stages, and for this the course of life will continue beyond physical death. Mention of the outcomes of deeds is in relation to the process of these evolutionary stages. The part in this verse which requires examination is Summa Ilahi Turja'un, 228. A preliminary discussion about this has been carried out under verses 1:5, 218, but in view of its importance further elucidation is also required here. 5.41 The meaning of Ilahi Turja'un. The root of Turja'un is Arja'an. The meaning of Rayu'un are to turn over, come back, to return. Raja'a Ilahi means to turn to someone for help, etc. And the meaning of Raja'un is for results to become established. These are the meanings which have particular significance. According to the first meaning, Riyat Ilala will mean to turn towards the law of Allah for the solution at every stage in life, and according to the second it will mean the manifestation of the consequences of human deeds according to the law of requital. This word has appeared numerous times in the Quran in these meanings. This exposition of it will appear clearly before us in the relevant verses. For the present, we consider it necessary to mention those two wrong meanings of Inna Ilahi Raji'un according to which gross misconceptions are created about the being of Allah and man himself. The prevalent concept among us about life in the hereafter is that when human beings will be given life again after death, then there will be a very big court in which all the people will be gathered. Allah will be established on the throne of the court. Every person will be presented to him as an accused. There he will be judged according to his accountability, and verdicts will be announced from the direction of Allah. Criminals will be consigned to Jahannam and those who are not proven to be criminals will be made to enter Jannat. There is no doubt in this that the Quran has also drawn such a map for the reward and punishment of deeds according to the law of requital. But, as has already been stated, whatever has been reported in the Quran about life in the hereafter is explained metaphorically, not literally. If it is accepted that there will, in reality, be a physical arena, and Allah will be established there on the seat of justice, and criminals will be brought into his presence, then from this it will become essential for Allah to be confined to space and time. Such a concept about Allah is contrary to Quranic concepts. He is beyond these limits and out with these confines. Thus the meaning of being brought into his presence, or of going towards him, Ilahi Raji'un, will be of the manifestation of results according to the law of requital of Allah. How this will take place after death, what its practical procedure will be, and what its form will be, we cannot comprehend at our present level of consciousness. At this point in time, it will be necessary to understand this much, that this will not take place in some particular venue. The true meaning of Ilahi Raji'un, returning to Allah, can be understood through an example like this, that an escaped convict is at large, running and hiding to escape arrest. An announcement is made about him by the court that you cannot run anywhere, sooner or later you will have to return here, there is no escape from this. This is what is meant by human beings ultimately returning to the court of Allah, i.e. Ilahi Raji'un. The other incorrect concept of Ilahi Raji'un is a creation of those who practice mysticism, according to which it is claimed that the human self is a part of the divine self, which by separating from it has become buried in the quagmire of matter. Now the objective of life becomes that after escaping from this quagmire of matter, this part should rejoin the divine self. A detailed discussion regarding this non-Quranic belief of mysticism has taken place under verse 1:5, and there is no need to add anything further to it. And that which we say on hearing the news of the death of someone. Inna lillahi wa inna ilaihi raji'un. 2:156. And from which is meant the expression of extreme grief, sadness and sorrow, shock and pain. As has been noted in the explanation of verse 2:16, and related verses 2:154-156, this is a great earth-shattering proclamation of life-giving, revolutionary, supreme zeal, limitless passion and joy which has been unfortunately turned into a message for the outpouring of grief after a death. When deen turns into a religion, then its every life-giving concept turns into a death-inviting belief. Religion is nothing more than sermons in graveyards, whereas Deen is the claimant of persistent striving in the arena of life. Details have been covered under verse 216. The concluding words of the verse under view, Summa ilahi turja'un, invite us to come to the next verse, which is as follows. Allah is He who has created whatever is in the earth for the benefit of all of you. Like the earth, He also has control over the numerous heavens which He has kept established with great balance, and this control and authority of His is based on perfect knowledge. 229. The beginning of this chapter was with these words. O mankind! Follow your Rabb, who created you. 221. And in the next verse it was stated that He has created the means of sustenance for you from the earth and the heavens. Now, when it is proclaimed that you should turn towards the same fundamental reality, this means that this same fact has been reiterated in this verse, and that truth is this. Allah is He who created whatever is in the earth for the benefit of all of you. 229. Whatever is in the earth is for the good of the whole of humanity, not for any particular family, tribe, group, nation, or class, for the whole of humanity. Here, after ard there is mention of Sama, in fact Samawat is cited. The meaning of Sama is the atmosphere of the sky above, and Samawat means those different stellar bodies, planets, which are dispersed in this universe and are moving around in their orbits. 36:40. There will be a detailed discussion about Ard and Samawat at that place where we discuss the system of the universe. Here it is important to understand the meanings of a few words which are used in the verse under view. 5.42 Sabah Samawat, 7 heavens. Among us we commonly translate Sabah Samawat as the 7 heavens. There is no doubt in this that in the Arabic language Sab'un is the digit of 7. But since this digit is viewed by them as a perfect number, therefore they also use it to mean many or numerous. When we say in our language that I have admonished you 10 times, or I have gone there 20 times, or never mind coming once, you can come 100 times, some specific number is not implied in this. All that is meant from this is many, hence, Sabah Samawat will mean numerous heavenly bodies. The root of istwa is swy, which means for something to be in complete balance within its own self. For every energy to be present in precise proportion and at its extreme state of development. The meaning of istwa ila shai is to have an aim and intention for something, or to direct attention towards it, and in istwa Allah there is the meaning of control and empowerment. In the verse under consideration the meaning will be, and then He turned His attention towards Samawat and created numerous planets therein, in them extreme balance and proportion are to be found. 229. Summa is a conjunction and generally appears at the place where the aim is to explain some sequence of events, e.g. we say that first He ate food and then, summa, drank water. But it is not necessary that in every place it is used solely to mean sequence. It is also used to mean and. Furthermore, in the verse, 229, being discussed, it does not mean that He first created the earth, and then turned His attention to Sama and arranged it into numerous stellar bodies. Here it will mean exactly this, that He created the earth and turned His attention to the heavens. Support for this appears in a verse of Sura An-Nazi'at in which firstly it is stated about the heavenly bodies, He raised the height of the heavens and created it precisely, 79:28. And after that it is stated, and after this hurled planet Earth at a distance, 79:30. He has, in fact, also stated that initially, the heavens and the earth were joined together, as one unit of creation, nebular mass, before we clove them asunder, 21:30. The meanings of these verses will be explained at their respective places. Here the aim is only to explain that in the verse under view the word summa is not used to mean sequence, it has appeared in the meaning of end. Bring this reality to mind again, that this topic began with ibudu, and after this the creation of rizq was mentioned. In this verse the creation of rizq is again repeated. As has been explained in the previous pages in detail, the production of rizq takes place according to the natural laws defined by Allah, and whichever individual, or nation, works according to these laws, they can obtain this rizq. In this there is no distinction even between kafir and momin. 5.42.1 Rizq and Rizq-e-Kareem. But there is one kind of rizq which the Quran has termed as Rizq-e-Kareem, sustenance with dignity. This is that rizq in which no human being is dependent on another human being, or is a slave. This is achieved within that system which is established according to those laws which Allah has defined, in the Quran, for the communal life of human beings. This rizq is conditionally linked with that ibudu which is interpreted as the authority of Allah. You have seen in the discussion of Surah Al-Fatiha that the devotees of Allah accept and proclaim in the presence of Allah that we only accept your authority and seek only your assistance. 1:4. 5.43 Mutual connection of asking for help and obedience. From this it is clear that only the one who adopts his authority has the right to ask for help from Allah. This is a very important point. Today in the world everywhere there is a clamor for rights, but no one tells these people demanding rights that every right is conditional on fulfilling a responsibility. Only he who first of all fulfills his obligations can demand a right. Allah has linked his promises of fulfilling commitments of Rizq-e-Hasana, Rizq-e-Kareem, or his help and assistance, to the condition of Iman and Amal-e-Saleh. He even states that, and he responds to those who have Iman and do deeds of righteousness. 42:26. He even only responds to the supplications of those people who fulfill the condition of Iman and Amal-e-Saleh. The reason for our remaining deprived of his help and assistance, and remaining far away from Rizq-e-Kareem, is solely that without fulfilling the prerequisite of we accept your obedience, we keep saying we seek your help. Following this clarification, this chapter is ended. 5.44 Summary of Chapter 5, verses 2:21-29. O band of humanity! You should not be duped by the eye-deceiving glamour of the self-devised system of these nations. You should bring yourselves under the obedience of the laws of your Rabb, that Rabb who created you and your forefathers, and despite so many destructive forces of the universe, passing the human race through different stages, he brought them to this point. 7:172. This is the only one way by which you will be able to remain protected from the dangers of the journey. You will obtain this protection through the universal system of Rabu'iyat of Allah, according to which he produced the means of sustenance for your abode in the earth. He scattered heavenly bodies above in the heavens so that these remain in their own respective orbits through their mutual gravity and attraction. Then he made such an arrangement so that water rains down from the skies from which the means of rizq is produced for you. It is obvious that you have received all this means of sustenance from Allah without any remuneration and payment. Only Allah has ownership of this. You have only been given permission to use it. Therefore never do this, that you make human beings its owners. If you did this, then it would be deliberate shirk with Allah. Private ownership, no matter whose it may be, of the means of production is to make men as Allah. These should be kept available for meeting the requirements of all those who are needy. 41:10. If despite all these concrete facts and evidence, you are suffering from some doubt or suspicion, or from some psychological dissonance in this respect about that code of life which we have given to you through our servant, whether it is truly based on fact or not, then the easy technique to prove this is for you to show us by presenting an alternative map to the one presented by this code for human life, if not of the whole structure, then at least of one floor, i.e. produce one clause like a clause of this code. 1038, 1113. For this there is no need to put responsibility on one person. Make a committee of all the writers and thinkers, social and political lawmakers, who are to be found in your society, and leave only the wahi of Allah on one side, and challenge them to make one like this, if you are truthful in your claim that you cannot decide whether this code is from Allah or not. And if you are not merely playing tunes of suspicions and doubts in order to keep on clinging to your vested interests, then you should accept this challenge. But if you do not accept this challenge of ours, and we can affirm that you will never accept it, and you do not try to understand this matter using intellect and vision, and instead continue to advance in your opposition blindly and become an obstacle in the path of haqq. Then the consequence of that will be that hell of destruction and ruin in which your public and intelligentsia, cunning leaders and their followers, will all plunge into together with their pomp and wealth, whether this is in the form of battle, whose fire is kindled by human hands and instruments of war, or through the destructive consequences of the wrong system of life. In any case, this is that hell which the deeds of those who reject the correct code of life and resort to transgression have prepared for them. 66:6. In this confrontation there is nothing to be apprehensive about for the Jamaat which has iman in the laws of Allah and the truths of the higher values of life, and remains in pursuit of the program which is defined by Allah for developing potentials. O Rasool, give them glad tidings that such a society will be shaped for them, whose prosperities will be enduring and whose conveniences will never know decline. 1425, 1335. Such springs in this life which never witness autumns, and an eternal life in the hereafter too. These promises of prosperities and successes are not specifically confined and limited to your existing Jamaat only. When and wherever any Jamaat adopted such a path, this was the very same outcome. 24:55, 39:74, and this will be the case for the future as well. The results of these deeds are always alike, although their forms are according to the changing requirements of the time. In this society, other people will keep joining them and becoming their companions. Like them, they too will be holders of a virtuous character. As long as this society remains established on the foundations of the laws of Allah, it will keep bearing its fruits like this. Fasad and change will never materialize in it. We have painted this society as an evergreen and blossoming garden, Jannat, and have used the simile of delicious fruits for the results of righteous deeds, because lofty realities can be explained through tangible similes. Therefore, this matter is not counter to the divine status, that he describes realities using metaphors. He has also described Jannat in the hereafter in a metaphorical style. 1335. These are parables of gardens and fruits, but if need be, he will have no hesitation in quoting an example of something as minuscule as a mosquito, or something even tinier than this in order to illustrate a matter. Those people who have iman in this, that all this is being expounded from the direction of Allah, via wahi, they will understand from these metaphors that this is an established fact from their Rabb. But those people who reject this fundamental reality itself, they will also seek 1,000 faults in these similes and metaphors, and will say, what is the ultimate purpose of these kinds of similitudes? Nevertheless, if a simile is to make one comprehend a reality, then its outcomes are factual and visionary, and if these are for the concealment of batil, then what can its outcome be other than destruction? This is how conflicts spread. From this you can understand how from one narrative two conflicting conclusions can be drawn. The difference is in the point of view. Look at it from one viewpoint and start treading on a path leading to misguidance because of it. Look at it from another viewpoint and paths of successes and achievements open up. But only those people set out on the wrong paths who do not wish to spend their life within the mold of the laws of Allah, and instead, by finding divergent paths, select different paths for themselves. These are the people who disintegrate the sum total of all these responsibilities which are required of them according to the universal rububiyyat of Allah. Furthermore, they even break that covenant which they had agreed with the divine system, 9:111, and in this way, by severing all the relationships of humanity, 1321, 1325, break it into pieces through the unnatural discriminations of race, clans, nations, countries, and make individual or national vested interests the aim of life, although the requirement of the law of rububiyyat of Allah is that, by joining these relationships, the whole of mankind should be deemed to be members of one brotherhood and branches of one tree. 2:213, 10:19, 31:28. The outcome of this way of life is that imbalances become created in society, and ultimately nothing falls into their share other than destruction and annihilation. Say to these people, whose path of life is mentioned above, on the basis of what evidence can you deny the laws of Allah, when your own being is living evidence of this. From whatever angle you view it, you will have to accept this reality that there was a time when there was no sign of life whatsoever on planet Earth. This whole planet was a heap of lifeless matter. Then life manifested in it, and traversing its evolutionary stages, it reached the human form. Before this, leaving aside being a living human being, you were not even a thing worth mentioning, 76:1. Having reached this point, you became a living, conscious human being and became enabled to be addressed as you, 39:9. From this it is apparent that life is not a creation of yours, this is bestowed by Allah alone. After this, when you die according to the physical law of Allah, then what difficulty will there be in this for Allah to cause you to become alive again, 37:58, 40:11, 44:56. Hence, life does not end with death. Life moves forward for the requital of deeds. Therefore, you simply cannot go outside the realm of this law. You can try to escape it 1,000 times, ultimately you will have to return to it. In fact, understand it like this, that even now your every step is taking you in its direction. This law is established by that Allah who created you on this earth, and together with this also provided the means of sustenance for you. Then pay attention to the vastness of the universe and see how numerous stellar bodies in it are busy in carrying out their assigned duties with balance and harmony, 57:1-2. This is also taking place according to the law of Allah, according to the law of that Allah who is well aware of the hidden potentials and requirements of everything. This universal system of the heavens and earth is in action for this purpose, that the results of the deeds of men are precisely established, 11:7, 45:22, 53:31. In order to understand this reality, it is necessary that firstly the characteristics of man and his status in the universe is well understood. This has been described in a metaphorical style in the story of Adam, which is, in reality, the account of man himself. In this chapter there has been a discussion principally about humanity. After this, the Quran has noted the communal life of man, and its beginning is done with the metaphorical description of the story of Adam. We will leave this for the second volume of this book.